No, sir. Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Started a little early. How are you guys? Newt, I swear to goodness. My cat is off camera and he is looking to make an appearance. He had better not. What's good? All of this will be posted to my YouTube soon. You can check, what am I thinking of? What am I thinking of? Oh, my link tree. If you want to find my YouTube, it's in there. Bro, Newt, I swear to God, I swear, I swear, this cat, stop. I love him to death, but he has already like clicked on things too many times today. I'm actually like baiting, or not baiting, editing the sequel as we speak. I'm dying. Ugh. Hello. My co-host tonight is going to be Michaela from Aurora's and SADProse.13. You guys might know her from some of her Gwen cosplays were pretty popular in the past. So I, Newt, come here and say hello if you want to keep doing this. That's what I thought. You won't come say hello. Buddy. And he said, man, this cat said bet. Hey, bud, what's up? Can you not walk on the notes? Thank you. Ugh. All right, I'm just waiting. Okay. There you are. There we go. I'm inviting you now, dear. Oh, there we go. Hello.
There we are.
Look
Hi.
at you on theme.
I know I had to go for the Asriel theme, the Akatar theme, the
Nice.
Glorial theme.
Oh wait. Oh, never mind. I thought the necklace was a rose for a second, and I
No,
was like, this is divisive, Carol.
I have such a funny story about that. I was at my parents' house and I was going through like an old like thing that I had of like old like jewelry from like middle school, and I found a rose necklace and it was gold, and I was like, I don't even wear gold jewelry anymore. It was so strange, and I was like, Azriel left this here for me, and I'm so
I don't know. I think he gave it to Clotho, and then she like never did anything with it ever.
he gave it to any priestess. He literally never even said Gwen.
I
Dude,
swear to God.
I am not like a Tumblr person, and yet I am
Good.
on Tumblr. I troll Tumblr all the time just to see what those people are saying, and they say things like that all the time.
They really do with their whole chest. They hear Clotho go, I will give it to her, it'll make her smile. They see Azriel picture her with it, and they go, I don't think she got it.
It's literally insane. They're like, they're like, well, like it wasn't even meant for her. Like it was meant for Elaine because Elaine is the thing of secret, lovely beauty, and I was like, that's.
How is it a secret to anyone that she's beautiful? Everybody knows it.
I was just like, I was like, they're like, he literally said that she was a secret, lovely beauty, and I was like, he was talking about the freaking necklace, and
Talking
then
about the necklace.
he called her a thing of secret, lovely beauty, like the idea of her smiling. So it gets me so.
You know what you always respond to those with? You always respond to that, to he doesn't consider her more than a friend, to all of that with, okay, well, he still buried the image of her smiling deep in his chest where it continues to glow quietly. Because, like, what can you say to that?
I just don't understand that part of it. I'm like, if like let's say like yeah, clearly you don't believe in it, you don't like it.
Yeah.
But what do you think they actually are? Like, why do you think Elucien would put that in there if it didn't mean something?
I was just talking to people the other day about when the next ACOTAR book finally comes out. I genuinely do not know what some people will do with their lives. Like I know if Gwynreal didn't happen, I would probably still have my fanfic. I'd probably write like tons of fanfic. But some of these people, I'm like, what are you gonna do?
We won't have to worry about that because it's gonna happen.
We're not gonna have to worry about that. Just be prepared. By the way, Michaela, this is gonna end up linked in a Reddit post somewhere
Okay.
about us being psychotic fangirls.
Ooh, okay, perfect. I mean, bro, as if like my own consciousness, like it's in there all the time. Imagine being us. Like you can make fun of us as much as you want. Imagine being us.
Yeah, imagine.
That's the punishment in and of itself. Okay.
Hey Jess. Yeah, I swear to God, Tumblr. I think it was Taylor. She found us in a Reddit post, and they were linking one of our Gwynreal lives, saying that we looked really uncomfortable talking about Azriel being a spy master, being on par with like working in retail. Because people are always like, I don't know why you'd obsess over Azriel. He's a murderer. And I'm like, people are murdering all the time in fantasy. It's the equivalent of working in retail. Like, everybody kills someone. TikTok, don't take this down.
Oh, yeah, I have to watch it because I've made jokes before that have got people S-worded.
No. Yeah, I actually had that happen to me Sunday. I was reading fanfic out loud with some friends, and we got taken down for hate speech.
Yes, that's what it was. It was hate speech. I said,
Yep.
I immortal, and I was like, yep, the best, the fan fiction.
We were almost gonna have to do this live on Insta because it was like you're suspended till the 15th, and I was like appeal, and they were like, "Oh, our bad."
Wow, they've never listened to any of mine.
It's the first time I've ever won one.
I've never even heard of anybody like ever getting like winning an appeal.
Haven hasn't even. I think Haven's had a few appeals lost too. She has way more followers than me.
I mean, this is what it was meant to be.
I think it's because right after my friend read the word that got us banned, they went, "Oh, I don't like that word," and I think maybe the TikTok gods heard that and were like, "Oh, okay."
I think I'm trying to remember what
Hey,
I was talking about the hottest thing one of the characters from Crescent City, specifically Hosab, did was, and that set him over. I was like the hottest thing he ever did was, and then I said the word.
You can't.
And I found out that day that you cannot say that word.
No. And then we changed the O's into organism for all of my immortal.
That's smart.
I did it because she did it. She did it first. She accidentally misspelled it organism, and I was like,
God, it's the best. It is literally the epitome of fan fiction in like the negative way. Actually, no, in the positive way, really. Like it.
I mean, it's kind of miraculous how famous this really terrible fan fiction has become. Not even for being good.
Yeah, it's funny because like I think that's what people when they'll like try to insult like fan fiction writers, or they're just like they'll be like, oh, like you can have your fanfic, or you're like, oh, you're writing fanfic, and like that's
Yeah.
what. And I'm like the most miraculous pieces of literature I've ever in my life have been fan fictions.
My immortal among them.
It's like, and that is what that one is included.
I quote my immortal daily. I love being like Voldemort and the Death Dealers. I
So
have
perfect.
so many favorite quotes from that.
You couldn't like nobody could even like try to make one that bad and it be that bad. Like the
On
best.
accident. Yeah, it has to be on accident.
Yes, it like the best part about it is that it's she was being for real when she wrote that.
Me and my roommates talked about it at length, and some of the errors we saw, we were like, these things are so actually like borderline inappropriate. They could only be thought of by like a young mind who learned this info too early.
Yep. In like middle school. Like it reads like someone who wrote that in middle school, but like even in middle school, my brain wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
Who am I to judge a genius?
Yeah, who are you? Actually, that's a great segue into the opening segment, which is who are we? Um, I am Izzy. I read these fics on Instagram and TikTok, and then I'm Davis Danner on AO3 and Wattpad. And I write a bunch of fan fiction. And tonight, my lovely, lovely guest is someone I'm a huge fan of, aurorasandsadprose.13, aka Michaela.
Hi, I'm Michaela. Do I do the intro?
Yeah, talk about yourself.
I don't even know like what to say. I'm like this is pretty much the only platform I really use. I don't really use my Instagram, but I was using my Instagram for like the promo of this. And a lot of people I found out in like my real life and like just like in my past are SJM fans and like they follow me on TikTok and I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. You don't need to see what I do on TikTok.
Yeah, no, your Instagram's for you.
Yeah, and then so like that was fun, but like I guess on here I talk about everything. I do theories, literary analysis of SJM stuff, cosplay occasionally. I'm trying to think of anything else I do. Just nonsense, making fun of Rowan.
Making fun of Rowan. Yeah,
And
we'll
then
add that.
yeah, and then I occasionally talk about Gwenreal, to which I mediate a war that ensues in every comment section.
It is a war. Two things about what you said. One, all of those people who came out of the cracks who were ACOTAR fans that you didn't know about, half of them at least were Twilight fans back in the day.
Yeah, they all were.
Yep,
It
that's the same with me.
it's the same effect, but they're so different, and yet they have like this similar like intoxicating effect on you.
Yeah, my friend described it perfectly. Her name's Holly. She's a comedian, and she was like, "This filled the Twilight-shaped hole in my heart."
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was gonna say, what was the second thing? Fuck. You said, oh, excuse me, fudge.
Yeah.
You
Making fun
said
of
the th
in a good way, in a fun
No,
way.
no, 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 no. Heather likes to make fun of him in a bad way.
Oh, you should see my video I made cosplaying as Rowan, where I made an audio of Power Over Me, but I replaced the my with hawk screeches. If you scroll, you'll see it. I'm wearing a really bad like silvery blonde wig. You'll
I
see
hate that I haven't seen this. I have to see this immediately.
it. So it's some of my best work, really.
It's some of my best work. Oh yeah, you must find it. She also has a like really beautiful Gwen Lane cosplay video. It's crazy how hot Gwen is in that.
That was I literally was thinking about that earlier. I was like, man, we really killed that.
We fucking crushed that. I like, you were intense. When I got I was like, whoa.
I filmed it like 4 times. I took 4 takes. I always take a bunch of takes. That's why like I don't post more cosplays, because I know that when I film it, like it's gonna take so much. And I've had like a specific cosplay that I'm finally gonna do. Like I have to. I'm like I think I'm filming it tomorrow of Femme Eris that's coming up, and I've just been
Shut up.
yeah. It's been in the works for a long time, since like the summer, and I just keep not doing it, and I'm just gonna do it.
That's hot. I can't wait.
I'm
I
so
cannot wait.
I'm
I
so
wish you could have heard the sound I made when it was like at aurorasandsadprose.13 tagged you in a video, and I was like,
I was
and
like immediately.
I was laying in bed, I'd fallen asleep, and my husband was sleeping next to me, and my AirPods had died, so I was just like turning it way, way, way down, and I was like, just holding it to my face. I was so excited. um, what?
I was so excited. I think you like tagged me in it, and like, or like you invited me to do it, and I was like,
Yeah.
you ask, I do it.
I was like, please, please. No, you are low key like my favorite Gwen cosplayer on this app. I swear to God.
Shut up. That
Mhm. Mhm. I've talked about it with like a couple of people. Willem de Frenemy, welcome. That's one of my favorite usernames that I see come up is Willem de Frenemy, and then also
that she's making. It's one of my friends, Amanda. She's making fun
as
of me.
long as it's one of your friends, cool. Okay, I was like, do you want me
I
to get them?
I have a theory about Holland Haviljard being the king of Highburn as a joke, but also not as a joke. And anytime people comment like, or people make videos about like weird like theories have gotten out of hand, I always comment, I hate that girl who said that Holland Haviljard was the king, just to see if they'll say something back, and they like never do. So I'm like,
That's hilarious. Are you also behind the theory that Hunt is Jesus and it's a Jesus retelling? Have you heard that one?
I've heard that one. About that one another time. We could talk about that one another time.
That was great. That yes, no, that's not a joke. I don't know who made it. I haven't listen. I haven't listened to the theory. I just know that based on Hunt, like having a halo of thorns, he's Jesus.
Yes, it was like it's a very extensive theory. I know who did it, but I won't say.
I remember the username, but I'm not gonna say.
Yeah. It has like, I like the core of it, of what it means. So it's just
They
very
did
fun.
their research. It's fun.
They did research that wasn't accurate, but it was research.
But they did put where it wasn't like a theory they just randomly like
Right.
came up with.
Yeah, I'm like a stickler for the facts. So like with like mythology and references.
You really are. I love that about you.
I am very I it's my neurodivergence. I'm like, which is why we can segue now into your fic, because the details, that's my favorite thing about. I'm like, no, she knows Gwynreal better than anyone, and like all these little details. I made a story the other day, and I was like, I had, for some reason I had completely forgotten about it, and I was like, why would SJM introduce the fact that the mating ceremony has a black ribbon, if not for the sake of my mental health? Like,
it's the same book that we get the "You're the New Ribbon" line. We finally learn a detail of the mating ceremony.
and it's a paragraph after she mentions that Gwyn.
Come on.
She's like, Gwyn might come to the mating ceremony. Anyway, our hands are going to be bound with black ribbon. And I'm like, no, in their future home, in their future cottage that Azriel built by hand, there are 2 hooks next to each other, and they can contain the black ribbon and then the white ribbon next to each other. And they use them for whatever household duties they feel like, depending on their mood. Sometimes
Dude, I always have them substitute it for the black ribbon. I have never thought about that, and that is probably one of my new favorite headcanons. That is great.
The thoughts I have about that, the way I see it is like, it'll be, black ribbon, and then it'll like break and fray so much that he's like, I miss it, and then he's like, wait a minute, and then like they grab her ribbon,
I am, as Heather knows, I love saying this. I am aggressively unwell at that.
I was screaming, and then someone was like, "Oh, Izzy like brought this up in like." They were like, "No, they didn't say Izzy. They were like, if you ever read a Chord of Light and Melody, like they talk." And I was like, "Oh my god, they do talk about the black ribbon there." And I was like, "Yes." Yeah. And then I was like, I'm familiar with Izzy.
No, the part of it, like, so originally, if you guys follow me, you know that originally this live was with C. Ray Reid, and they had other obligations. And I was like, okay, I need somebody else who, like, gets me. And I was like, why did this take me more than 30 seconds to figure out? It's Michaela. Who accepted within seconds.
I literally, like, I'm so bad at replying to messages, but I saw that and I went, immediate yes.
I was like, oh, thank God. I wasn't sure if you would say yes. I really appreciate you coming. I've timed myself doing the recap. It sits at 20 minutes, and I think I can get through it quicker, though. So
I have notes on each chapter that I like, that would be like comments, like, on it.
No, what, you have them now?
Yeah, I made them for this.
Oh my God, what would be so lovely is if we deviated from form, and after I recap a chapter, you give me your thoughts.
Yes, that's perfect. I love
that. Thank God. Okay, I can breathe. All right, thank God. Okay.
Yes.
Everybody, Taylor, Kyla, take notes for your next appearance. I'm just kidding.
I was like, and I already knew. I was like, she didn't tell me to take notes, but I'm taking notes, and I know that's like very on par with Gwen. Like, it's just like, takes extensive notes, be prepared for anything.
There's a question we got from Instagram tonight, by the way, on that topic that I am so excited to ask you.
Okay. So
as also, like, in my head, like, I can't describe, whenever I write Gwen and Asriel, I see them in my head. And, like, it's such an amalgamation, but sometimes I just see you when I write Gwen stuff. And I'm just like, oh, I can see Michaela making that little face where she, like, narrows her eyes here.
Like, blushing so hard.
One time, though, what's really funny is that one time when I was doing a live with you in my bedroom, after I got done, he was like, were you duetting yourself? And I was like, no, that's Michaela.
I'm like, I feel like we look related. Like, about it. Like,
we both have, like, kind of big eyes, and we do a lot of gesticulating.
Yes.
I usually have a mug in all my videos because I'll start going nuts with my hands, turning into fucking Jack Sparrow.
I know, that's the only reason I wear rings in videos nowadays. And I actually, my boyfriend got me a microphone that I use. I'm not using it right now, but like I started doing it in videos, and I'm like, this is good. This prevents me from like
gesticulating.
Because it's just, I'm like, man, I know that it's distracting. I'm not even.
Well, eventually one day you're going to get famous. They're going to pause it at a bad time, and you're going to be caught doing some sort of sign you don't know the meaning of.
I've been ready to be famous my whole life.
Same. Jessica, you need to, I don't know, if Jessica, you want to do a podcast again about Gwynreel, you should have us both on. It's going to be at least 3 hours long.
I could, this is all I think about. No, it's not. It is not. Redditors are going to be like, she says this is all she thinks. I pray for her when Elreal is canon and not Gwynreel.
No, honestly, that's great. It just gets you more views. That video has like 1,400 hits. It's crazy. I think it's the it's either In Defense of Asriel or the Great Gwynreel debate.
Oh yeah, I made one about Elucien, and then people were like, so you hate
Elaine.
You hate Elaine, and I'm like,
do you know what you do to those comments? You do dramatic readings of them.
Oh,
and then they delete them of their own volition. It's great.
I kind of like to gentle parent them to kind of show them how dumb they're being. I'm like, you having some big feelings. I could tell.
You're having big feelings.
I'm like, that's my favorite. You can feel our feelings, friend. Like, right, have those feelings, friend. Perhaps we should read it tonight. and on your anonymous account. He's playing video games.
Oh, I get that. That sounded just like my husband. um, but I always think it's so funny that these people who come in so mean with guns blazing are defending canonically the nicest person. Like,
I'm like, dude, she would not. She quite literally did not ask. She asks for you to not do this. She's like, oh, I had someone tell me once in that comment section that they can't ship Elaine and Lucian out of good faith, like until she gives them consent.
oh my god, then I hope you never shipped Pharaoh with Rhysand and Akamath.
I was
Like,
like, is there gonna be like a fourth wall, like a Fleabag wall break of like, by the way, I give you like consent to ship me with Lucian. Thank you. My canonical mate, my sunshine, and I am flowers. Thank you.
it's so funny you say that. So Lucian's voice actor for the graphic audio is a friend of mine. And, yeah. we, yeah. Go on, go on, go on.
I have a no gingers rule personally for like me, like in like with like men and or
Yeah.
like fiction. I mean, men in general, but like fictional men, because it feels like incense.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
Like incense, the wonderful smelling thing.
I know what you meant.
He hearing his voice as Lucian, I literally was like, I have let go of it for one man. It's like how I'm like, I hate blonde men until like I'm like, okay, listen, Fenris Moonbeam, you are the exception.
Fenris Moonbeam, Adrian from the Battle of King of Battle and Blood. There are a few blonde men that are an exception. But Gabriel, like when I first talked to, he didn't really know much about the books, and like he was like, I don't really know who I ship him with. So I was telling him about because I don't think he knew like much. He still doesn't know much about it. But like I was telling him all the reasons he should like Elaine and Lucian, and I was like, please don't think I'm a crazy fangirl, but this is why. And he later when like we were talking again sometime, he was like, I was thinking about it, and like Lucian deserves an Archeron sister. They're like the main characters. He deserves that. And it's like
he has strong main character energy. It's so insane that people think that like I get why someone would ship him with that Vasa, but I also it violates two gingers in one relationship rule, and it's like, do you want him to suffer with a human? Like,
we're not doing the Weasleys here.
yeah, I'm like, we're not. Yeah, it feels like the royal family like derogatory. I mean, royal family derogatory in general, but like, it's just I was like, let's not give someone hemophilia. Like, come on,
Yeah,
no
he
ginger.
he's gonna love that. I can't wait to tell him that you like his voice acting.
I
If we get a whole book of him voice acting, I think the fandom might explode.
it just like it makes me like literally like giggle and kick my feet. Like I'm like Courtier and emissary. I'm Lucian.
Oh, when I sent him that song as soon as I found it, we rarely actually talk about Akatar that much, but sometimes I'll find stuff for him of him on TikTok, and I'm like responsible for sending it to him, and I'm like, you have to listen to this bop, and he was like, I'll listen to it, and I didn't want to tell him what it was. I wanted to be surprised, and I was like, have you listened to it? Have you yet?
He perfectly captures the way that I hoped Lucian would be captured in that moment. I was like, you just made all of it worth it to me, because like, sir, I love it.
He captures it so perfectly because he low key is very Lucian. He is one of the sassiest people I've ever met, and he will back me up to a fault. I'll be like, I know this is petty, and he'll be like, no, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it is.
Literally Lucian to Farah, like
All the time.
do more crime now. Lucian, everything that happened in the beginning of War to me is canon that Lucian let that happen because he did. And I'm like, he literally went, more crime, Farah, more, do more. And he's like, I don't, like, so you're really wow. I had suspicions. I'm like, you knew. You can see through glamours. You could see her tattoo the entire time, sir. I know it. You literally said, I can see through glamours.
I know. I know. And oh yeah, that Aquawar made Gabriel pretty upset. He was like, you know that line where Faye was like, where Lucian's like, you're a far better friend to me than I'm to you, Feyre? I don't believe that.
I'm like, to be fair and Farrah's point of view, I feel like that was a fair assessment at that point.
I told him, I was like, no, Feyre knows it, don't worry.
Like, oh, it's so funny.
I think before, but I did bring him up to speed on everybody's theory about Lucian and Andros being a secret couple, and that's why Lucian is more angry. Yeah, so if you, listen, go back and read him talking about Andros's death. He's more angry than anyone. I don't know if it means that they were okay, but it is one of my favorite crack ships. Is Andros x Lucian. Yeah.
I've seen people say that, and I've always said it's Andros. I don't even know if that's the correct Andros. I like Andros better because it sounds cooler.
Sounds more fantasy.
Yeah, I've seen people say that he is Gwen's dad, and I'm like, interesting.
I'm
like, I think that we're just picking any man to be her father. I'm like, I think people also obsess over who her dad is, when I think the far better thing to obsess over is who her grandfather is, and her grandfather is Eris.
Yeah. I mean,
Baron, but Eris.
It's one of those two. I flip-flopped a lot. When I was working on Rise of the Valkyrie, I was flip-flopping a lot. I had to stick to one in the end. I actually had to draw a family tree out because I could not figure out what he would be to her.
I think I would like it either way. I would really like her be a High Lord's daughter.
I feel like that'd be neat.
No, that wouldn't be her. Yeah. Oh, it's just so funny to me.
But the power does skip around sometimes, they said.
Oh yeah, they're like, sometimes, oh, trust me, I'm fully aware. You know how I feel about the power. They're like, the power just chooses, and I'm like, so it only chooses men? No, it does not.
I will tell you right now, no, it does not. Not in my world, baby.
There's going to be a secret of the courts that comes out where they find out that how many like different facts are like secretly the powerful women, so that they don't ascend to power, and then like that's going to have distrust of the courts within the court, and then you're going to have a high king and queen to oversee it, to check that power.
I've thought about this so much, where I'm trying to explain away the sexism, of course, and my explanation is that it's like kind of the classic that we already see, where we have this bias that only men such and such, and we don't see it in women because we don't look for it in women, because we've defined it as a male trait. So I feel like there have been a bunch of female high lords roaming around out there, and because it was not a position, it was never looked for, as it is with men. That's how I explain it now. Yeah. I like your idea, though. I think that should happen.
I also kind of like the idea that the reason that Baron has her everywhere with him is because it's like he has a hold of her power.
Oh my god, it's like a guild situation.
Yeah, I've read those books. I'm halfway through those books. And it's kind of, I was gonna say, you remember when Rowan in like Throne of Glass, I don't know why I had to clarify, when Rowan's talking about when you find your Karanam and how some men just like lock them away to like only use them as a power source. And I was like, why does he care? I'm like, I know that like the whole point is that like he's very possessive and it's abusive in that way.
Yeah.
But like I kind of like the marriage bond.
That would be neat.
I like that better than Rhys and Tamlin were secret lovers.
Yeah.
Say that, but I felt like because he made her High Lady, he said that as High Lady she has some of his power.
He also literally put a piece of his power in her. I will say that Callias and Vivienne were married then mates. I love them forever. Did you see Nox Luna's new Winter Court sweatshirt?
Yes, I need it. I need it. I
need it. Okay, let's get into chapter 6 real quick.
Yes.
Okay, here I go. Okay, so when we left off last time in chapter 5, Asriel and Gwyn were going to dinner at a tavern together in Windhaven. I love that scene. To establish that they're in a relationship for the public and further solidify this lie that they are together for everybody. So, from Asriel's POV, Asriel and Gwyn are seated at the tavern he was taking them to in Chapter 5 in an effort to establish their relationship for the people of Windhaven. Asriel goes so far as to order a bottle of Pelori for the table, which is an Illyrian wine for newlyweds. There's a special toast to go with the drink, but Asriel insists they don't need to do it. Gwen asks why, and Asriel says because the toast involves a kiss, and he doesn't wish to make her uncomfortable. Gwen says she isn't uncomfortable kissing him, and that after Ilias's outburst last night at the wedding, they can't afford to cut corners. Asriel places a kiss on her cheek during the toast, and likewise she kisses him on the brow. He notices that her cheeks are pink, but decides she's blushing because she's never been kissed in public before. After the toast, Asriel confides in Gwyn that more rides on this trial than just Nesta and Gwyn's reputations, informing Gwyn of the coup Illyria tried to throw against Rhysand. Asriel goes on to call the Illyrians barbarians who need to be brought to heel and is met with silence from Gwyn. She asks if he actually means all those things about the Illyrians, and Asriel confirms he does indeed. Then, after confirming no one in the tavern is listening, he tells her what was done to his own mother, leaving out the story of his hands and brothers. Gwyn shows sympathy, and Asriel assures her that he's all right now, but she says he isn't because he's filled with so much hatred. She goes on to say that she understands his hatred and would never say he isn't entitled to it, but in his position, believing that the Illyrians must be brought to heel is dangerous. She continues fear/hatred for men after what was done to her in Sangrava, but she overcame it after counseling, and whenever it resurfaces, she reminds herself there are males like Rhys who gave her a home, Cassian who taught her to fight, and Asriel who wrapped her in his cloak. Asriel is stunned that she is stoned. is stunned that she remembers him wrapping her in his cloak that night in Sangrava. Gwen ends the conversation by saying she hopes that Asriel finds whatever he needs to forgive Illyria, because what was done to those he loves can't speak for every soul who lives here. Back at Emery's, Asriel and Gwen get ready for bed. He finds himself furious with her for disapproving of his hatred, but reminds himself that she isn't the only one. Rhys and Cassian have also implored him to overcome his thirst for revenge against the Illyrians. Getting in bed, Asriel decides to open up to Gwen more and informs her that she's not the first person to express disapproval for his hatred. Then he goes on to tell her about a time when he let his anger get the better of him and paid a visit to his father, the male who had abused his mother, in the dead of night. During that visit, he tortured his father almost to the point of unaliving. However, Rhys and Cassian arrived in time to get him to retreat. He was so volatile that night that Rhys had to seize control of his mind and knock him out. When he woke up the next morning, Rhys informed him that his family had been stripped of their titles and fined for various crimes. They were in a financial hole from which they would never recover or regain their status. But still, Asriel's thirst for revenge wasn't sated. Gwen asks if Asriel thinks that he still harbors such hatred because he never got the revenge he wanted on his father and brothers. Asriel says that he doesn't know what will make his hatred abate, and Gwen says that only time will tell in that case. Asriel says that Illyrians are off to a bad start of getting on his good side by charging his best friends with murder. Gwen smiles and disbelievingly repeats that she is one of Asriel's best friends. The Shudder Singer confirms she truly is. Timidly, Asriel goes on to ask Gwen if she thinks he's a bad person. Gwen says that she thinks he's a good person who got dealt a singularly bad hand. They go to sleep. From Gwen's POV the next morning, Asriel sits with Gwen on the back porch of Emery's home and offers her the advice not to show any signs of submission to the magistrates today. Gwen thanks him for his advice and apologizes that he has to confront his hatred for Illyria head-on because of her. Asriel tells her she doesn't need to apologize because maybe he does need to confront it. Later, Balthazar meets them outside of Emery's to escort them to the tribunal hall. On the walk over, Gwen finds she quite likes him and remarks that perhaps Balthazar wouldn't have made a terrible husband. Still, something feels right about being Asriel's wife. When they arrive at the tribunal hall, Balthazar explains that the magistrates will be asking questions to determine if the trial should move forward. He also informs them that the magistrates presiding over the trial will be Fabius, Celio, and Crispin. Crispin is the oldest, Celio the youngest and most idealistic, and Fabius has a taste for theatricality. Balthazar warns them not to underestimate Fabius. He's known for swaying entire juries, especially against wicked females. As they ascend the courthouse steps, Asriel reminds Gwen once more that she's done nothing wrong in surviving the blood rite. And that is the end of chapter 6.
I literally wrote, the first thing I wrote for this chapter was in all caps, one of my all-time favorite. I'm not joking. I was so excited when I found out that this was the part we got started. It was one of my all-time favorite scenes from any fic I've ever read, period. Not just Gwen, but your fics are my favorite Gwenriel fics, obviously. They're my favorite ACOTAR fics. Anyway, we're on. I'm gonna move on so you can stop blushing. Or you could keep blushing while I go.
I'll keep blushing.
I was like, oh, I just it literally is like imprinted into my brain of like just like the longing that he exhibits in this scene. Okay, so when he's literally talking, he's in a place that he doesn't want to be in, but like she is his anchor in this moment, and he
Mm-hmm.
hates the Illyrians, and literally says like I wouldn't like I think like a chapter earlier, whenever he says like I've never like I don't court I've
I
never,
wouldn't date an Illyrian. Yeah, he would not court one.
and then like she asks him what the wine is, and then it says he felt the smile on his lips threaten to broaden, and then he's like about to smile, explaining to her the thing that he hates, like this thing that he hates, like he can't help but like almost smile. And then I wrote, Your Honor, I'm howling. And then I said intrusive thoughts about wanting to count all of her freckles.
I love adding that detail.
And then I highlighted the part about how Gwyn talks about how she'll never forgive those men and like the Hybern men for what they did. And I think that like that's just so important with that kind of topic, which is like everybody always talks about you need to forgive people to move on. But
No.
with that conversation, like you don't have to find meaning in it. You don't have to like be grateful that it happened ever. Like you can just hate, like you can just,
You don't have to land on forgiveness.
yeah, and then you could just the only way to really move on is just live your life. When he asks her in all caps, when he asks her if she thinks he's a bad person, my heart is broken.
Oh, I love
Like
that part.
it's like, do you think I'm a bad person? Because he like just thinks she is such a good person.
Yeah, she's the officiant of like who's good and bad to him.
Yes. Like, if you ever watched Jane the Virgin,
No.
stop. You would really like that show. It's so good.
Okay.
Um, it's I had another part that reminded me of Jane the Virgin to that one I get to. But like there's the main character, Jane. There's several characters who are like you are like my moral compass. Like I know that like if you're mad at me that like for a decision I made, then I know that like I probably messed up. So like it reminds me of that. And also like the fact that she like was willing to, like confront him about his hatred for the Illyrians and she
Hmm.
joins the short list of two other people who have been willing to do that. And he holds
Yeah.
them in such high regard, obviously, that he's just like, oh my gosh, like you like kind of know me enough. Like, do you think that I'm a bad person then?
Yeah.
And then him remembering that she said something before she cut the ribbon and reminding her of it before the trial starts, and then she's like, "I'm the rock," and I was like, "Yeah!"
I love that he overheard that. I have to make him overhear it.
Yes, that he's like, "Well, you said something," and then she's like, "I'm the rock against which the surf crashes. Nothing can break me," and he's just like, "Yeah, I remember that." Emery reminding her, "You're a Corinthian," and then she says, "No, I'm a Valkyrie," and
I
then
love that.
I also appreciated that Gwen, when they asked for her name, she said "Acolyte Gwen Berdara" because it's been part of her for her entire life, and like that's not something that you can just separate from her. And I think isn't she like struggling with separating those two?
Yeah, that comes to a head at the very end, and it's actually Meryl who is like, maybe this isn't for you. You're really smart. I do like evil Meryl. I love it when people let her, because I think it's kind of important to show this side that like just because somebody is in a difficult situation does not mean that they've healed well, healed properly.
I
There is a side where people heal and lash out instead, especially people like Gwen who have healed so beautifully,
yeah.
and they make them see like an uglier side of themselves. I think that if we get uglier Meryl, we'll see like a nice arc for her.
I mean, even though Meryl's like sucks, like canonically at this point, like I still like her. Like, and she also like, even though she says she doesn't respect Gwen and doesn't treat her very well, she respects Gwen's work enough that she like is very demanding of her specifically.
She knows that she's smart.
And she's just like, and I mean, I did that whole theory about Meryl and
No, she's so compelling
as
as a character.
character. So I vote for.
Um, your notes on that chapter make me feel so appreciated. When the bringing up her confronting him about his hatred for the Illyrians, I wanted to attack that so carefully because it was important to me that she said, like, if it were me and those were my own people, like, coming at me, Like, I'm not in a position to tell you you have to forgive that.
Yeah.
But I do think it's dangerous that you have this idea, this generalization of all of them when you are an enforcer with power over them. That's scary.
It also
Um,
like he's holding on to this hatred, and he's only hurting himself at this point. As I mean, yes, he's obviously able to hurt these other people, but
yeah,
like he's the one that's suffering the most as well.
yeah.
Like, and he's just like inflicting his own suffering, and it's
At
just
the end of the chapter, when he goes into the bedroom, like furious at her for pointing all that out, and then he ends up being like, "Do you think I'm a bad
like,
person?"
and he's like, "Well, you're kind of right," and then like that happens. That's like a repetitive pattern where he's like, and then you were right, and then like she's like,
It's really fun in Rise of the Valkyrie. The roles are very much reversed.
"Oh,
Azrael gets to be like the calm one a lot. And I think he has one moment where Gwen's like, "Stop being such a dick." But the rest of it, he's like, what's going on? I've never seen you this way. Anyway, okay, chapter 7. We're going to get to a part that you mentioned, actually. Chapter 7. So from Gwen's POV, Gwen and Nesta take their places on the dock in the tribunal hall with Cassian, Emery, Balthazar, and Azrael occupying one of the many vacant pews. The magistrates take their places and ask Gwen and Nesta to state their names. Gwen gets her first taste of Fabius's cool attitude when she introduces herself as Acolyte Gwyneth Berdara, and the magistrate tells her that her religious title bears no weight in the courtroom. Gwen, however, does not let this intimidate her and says she understands. The magistrates go on to list the charges of murder against Gwen and Nesta for the deaths of Novius Wingray, Bellius Landseer, Silas Sylvanus, Magnus Arrhenius, Aurelius Amel, and Matteo Sunder. When the Valkyries are asked how they plead against the charges, both of them say they deny it. They are then asked to plead their cases. Both Valkyries plead self-defense, relaying their individual tales of the blood right. When they are finished, Fabius declares that the magistrates believe the claims of self-defense. However, the families of the dead deserve justice, so the trial will be proceeding. This is not a surprise. Fabius goes on to declare how the trials work, including the bestowing of punishment. Cassian interrupts, stating that he will accept Nesta's punishment as her mate. Begrudgingly, the magistrates sustain Cassian's request. Azrael then steps forward and requests to accept Gwen's punishment on her behalf as her husband. The magistrates push back, declaring that Gwyneth Berdara is not married. Gwen and Azrael go on to persuade the magistrates that they were married just yesterday. When Fabius brings up how convenient such a thing is, neither of them say anything. Eventually, the magistrates sustain Azrael's request, but want Gwen and Azrael to note that they reserve the right to call the union into question should they find anything suspicious. The magistrates go on to ask that Gwen and Nesta are escorted to Illyrian holding cells when Emery interrupts, offering up her shop as a secure Windhaven facility. Balthazar steps forward as a Windhaven citizen, vouching for the integrity of her property. Again, begrudgingly, the magistrates agree to the concession. Everyone is dismissed. When they leave the courthouse, Azrael says that his shadows imparted that while the trial didn't go horribly, the magistrates feel hatred towards them. From Azrael's POV, on the way back to Emery's shop, we learn that Azrael did not convey the full extent of the magistrate's hatred. It was so heavy that it made his shadow shiver. When they return to Emery's home, both Emery and Wynn go to the back porch to weave bracelets while Nesta and Cassian prepare dinner. Reese and Feyre will be arriving to eat with them and get a briefing on how the first trial went. Azrael joins Emery and Gwen on the porch, where Gwen tries to teach him bracelet weaving. A little while later, Emery finishes her bracelet and excuses herself to change for supper, leaving Gwen and Azrael alone. Azrael remarks that his bracelet is lumpy and malformed, whereas Gwen's is a beautiful combination of teal and ebony threads. She gifts it to Azrael, and when he protests that he already has one, she tells him that one didn't have a wish on it. She tells him to shut up while she makes her wish, then fastens it to his wrist. When Azrael asks what the wish is, she refuses to tell him. Feyre and Rhys arrive for dinner, congratulating Gwen and Azrael on putting on a fantastic show as a married couple at the tavern last night and drinking Pelori. Embarrassed, Gwen takes a gulp of her wine before Rhys has even made his toast. She then begins to cough and eventually falls out of her chair, having been poisoned. Azrael feels extreme panic as he senses the life leaving Gwen and begs Feyre to do something with her healing magic. Just in time, Feyre is able to revive Gwen from the dead. Nesta and Emery crowd the priestess, while Azrael and Cassian set out to track down who poisoned the wine. Azrael feels a rage like he did in Sangrava and vows to show no mercy to the culprit for almost unaliving his wife. They begin to track the culprit by scent, and that is the end of chapter 7.
I love that
Chapter
part.
7, oh, I love that one.
I mean, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but when this came out, I was reading it every day. I would wake up in the morning. The first thing I would do was like I was reading like the morning paper. When like, I mean, later on, me spoiler alert. Later on, when he like almost,
Yeah.
I, like, or when even like when Gwen was like going up to the stake, I was like, I was so I knew that you were. I was like, she's
Yeah.
but I was so stressed. I was sobbing. I was sitting there sobbing. I was like, oh my god, she's ready to like, and I was just like, no, she never told him how she felt. And then like also like it is canon to me. Like I tell people all the time, like Gwen knows that they're mates. She's just like it's
She
just
knows.
she knows. That's why she was looking at him like all sidelong the day that he showed up. Like because it wasn't just because of that. And because Cassian, Cassian makes the observation that that's what he thinks she's looking at him like, but she's not looking. He could have centered her fear or like her like memories of like her reliving that, but no, she's just like side eyeing him.
Yeah. I
Anyway,
agree.
I loved what was the oh the name or not the name, the colors of the I was like, I also love
Yeah.
like that like Emery was able to convey to him like it's not about like being perfect. It's this is what it's about for her. And so
Yeah.
he like, cuts up and does it, and he's like, "I'm really bad at it." And then they also like the comment about Nesta being the like Nesta was ordinary first, but now it's you.
Yeah.
And also like knowing what the wish is that she wishes is like
Oh my God. I know. And I didn't know when I wrote that. I had a couple of ideas for what the wish would be. None of them were what it ended up being. And like going back and reading it a second time and knowing what it was, I was like,
bro. I literally when I read it because I've read it like 10 times. Like I remember being like, I also love that she's like the reason that I'm not telling. She's like I'm not just like superstitious like that. Like I would have told you if you hadn't said something about it. Like
if you hadn't pretended like it was dumb, you would know.
she's
Yeah.
like I suppose that you won't tell me what the wish is for fear that it won't come true. And she's just like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna tell you at all.
No, no, I'm gonna leave you to wonder. She just
Um,
leaves.
also the angst of the near death experience is
I'm not gonna lie, I like modeled that a lot after Thera seeing Rhys die in Akawar because I was like, what I wanted it to be like when a mate dies, so I modeled it after that.
it's it's also I love that you had Feyre use that power because like
That was
she never uses it. Like she never like Feyre never
no.
kill her. Like
So that was so important because honestly, like underneath it all, Trial of Valkyrie is kind of a mystery. You don't know who's doing all this subterfuge. Gwen has a mystery of her own. But there's like a look Feyre gives him when he's like begging her to like bring her back. And in my head, it's Feyre being like, "Oh fuck," and
oh
Rhys hasn't told her yet. He's figured it out long before this, and that's why he's always insisting, like, no, not Elaine and Asriel. And this is the moment where Feyre finally catches up and is like, oh my god, this is why Rhys isn't Team Elreal. I get it.
oh my god,
Like,
that of one time I commented on a video and it was like oh like it was like someone was talking about Gwenriel and I said I saw someone say once that they wondered if like Gwen like Rhys knows and Rhys like erased the memory for her so she wouldn't and the Elreal Twitter found it and they ripped me to shreds and that's why I will never search my name on any
no, don't. I had to delete Twitter from my phone.
that was after that I changed my username because I found it on Twitter and then I was like I'm gonna reply so I did and then they were like you're like obsessed for searching your name and I'm like you're like obsessed for using my username in a tweet about how much
You
I was like at least I actually use my name like
you can't argue with them. They're
like
insane.
it's like I use my name and my profile picture is me so like boom
Yeah, I changed my profile picture the first time I ended up there, but I had like 2K followers, and I was like, I don't want to change my username because and it's in all my fics, and I don't want to do that. So I just had to write it out,
I yeah
and
but
I ended up making like a TikTok.
mine was my
What?
actual name. Mine was like my Instagram name of like my name was just like Michaela Jeffers.
Oh.
I changed my TikTok name because I was just like, I don't want this like just be. I just didn't want them to like know my actual name because those people can get really crazy.
Yes,
And
they can.
my Instagram isn't linked to my TikTok anymore because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I've like that entire interaction was just insane. Like I literally like I after my Elucien video I made like recently, I people somehow still found my Instagram and were like DMing me like threats, and I was just like, dude, okay, you can't say anything without them. Like I'm like, you want to talk about? I'm like literally, I'm mediating this entire battle that you've created right here, and you are like the Gwyn reels are crazy. Don't tell me insane stuff. So
I mean, I'll say this, like, if Elreal Twitter finds this, y'all should know that y'all, like, it wasn't with me. I won't say who it was with, but y'all narrowly dodged a lawsuit. um, yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I heard about this. Someone was DMing me about it, about like stealing someone else's fic, or was it from a?
No, worse than that. They had incited violence against a creator.
Oh,
Um,
I have
and,
that.
yeah, they have narrowly. Oh yeah, and then there was almost actually there was a second one. There was almost a lawsuit for defamation as well. So LOL Twitter, there's a reason that they don't use their names, they don't use their pictures. Like they're doing some risky internet stuff.
It
um,
sucks because like I would like people will be like, even like Gwen Real people will, they'll sit and
yeah,
they'll be like, and sometimes obviously both sides have like bad people, and they'll be like, I don't understand how mentally unwell you have to be to like El Real, and I'm like, I can see why people like it, and
yeah,
then
I liked it for a second. I
like
entertained it.
I was indifferent. I was like, whatever toward it. Like, but I get why people, like it. It's just that I have another preference, and I'm very, like, me liking this does not take away from anyone else liking any of that. So,
No,
and I always just say, like, if me liking a ship feels like an attack to you, just hit block or not interested. Like, it will not hurt my feelings.
do it.
Like you have the right to. I'm like, why are you setting alarms to come check back on this comment section? Like nobody tagged you. Like why are you still here? Like
Why are you coordinating with other people to come here? Like they were gonna trash one of my lives. It was nuts. Yeah, I had to cancel it. It was terrible. Anyway, chapter 8.
any
um, from Azriel's POV, Azriel and Cassian go on the hunt for the person who poisoned the wine and follow his scent to an elderly woman's house. When she opens the door, they see a male slipping out the back. Both of them tail him and manage to apprehend him in the backyard. Azriel grips his throat and interrogates him, asking him if he poisoned the wine. The culprit begrudgingly admits he did. And before they can continue their line of questioning, Azriel's rage consumes him and he crushes the male's throat in his hand with the use of his shadows in him. Cassian points out that there was more they could have learned, and Azriel agrees, disappointed in himself for letting his emotions get in the way of his work. Azriel says he needs time to gather himself and departs, leaving Cassian to see what he can gather from the woman in the house. When Azriel finally returns to Imri's shop, Cassian meets him downstairs, telling him that the old woman in the house was actually their culprit's grandmother. She expressed that her son was a member of the Windhaven war camp but had more of a mind for politics. He was also a part of the coup against Rhysand. In all, it was just more of the same, and Cassian got all the info he probably could have. He also informs Azriel that before Rhysand and Feyre departed, they suggested the Valkyrie visit the Windhaven war camp tomorrow to establish for the public that they are the warriors they say they are, and that their killings or unalivings and the riot were justified. Azriel protests that Gwyn can't go in her condition, but Cassian relays that all three Valkyrie are intent on going to prove they can't be thwarted. Azriel does not argue and goes upstairs to sleep off the remainder of his anger. That anger is quelled when he sees Gwyn sleeping soundly, safe, and well. From Gwyn's POV, the following morning in the kitchen, Imri teases Gwyn for teases Gwyn. Wait, my eyes just went.
yep,
Teases Gwyn for in her healing stupor, asking Feyre and Rhysand about Azriel the previous night. Azriel. Sorry, my monitor is terrible right now. Asking about Azriel the previous night. Azriel then joins them, and Imri excuses herself to give them some privacy. Azriel discloses that he found the male who poisoned Gwyn and that he unalived him. Gwyn feels bad that someone unalived on her behalf, and Azriel tells Gwyn that while his hatred for the Illyrians has never weighed heavy on his conscience as of last night, It's now interfering with his work, and he believes that she may have had a point. Gwen tells him that he just needs to draw a line and swear never to cross it again. He then goes on to tell her that they need to discuss the war camp, and Gwen interrupts him, telling him he can't stop her from growing. Azriel tells her that he hadn't intended to, he just wants them to have a plan for being around the males who despise the Valkyrie. They are interrupted by a knock at the door. A young Illyrian boy is outside with a message from the magistrates. The next phase of the trial will commence at daybreak at the end of the week. At the war camp, the Valkyries, Cassian, and Balthazar launch their plan. They begin by having Cassian and Nesta spar while the surrounding Illyrians watch out of the corner of their eyes. Then Emery goes to spar with Cassian, but is interrupted by a female Illyrian warrior named Kira. Azra tells Gwen that there aren't many, but Kira is a worthy opponent of Emery. Once Emery and Kira finish sparring, it's Gwen and Azrael's turn to spar using daggers. Before they can begin, they are interrupted by an elderly Illyrian named Lord Otis, who Gwen had earlier heard saying that the Valkyrie had no respect for those at the war camp. He accuses Gwen of going against her vows as a priestess and disrespecting his beliefs with her very presence. Gwen says she's here to train, not to impose her beliefs upon him, and Otis points out that her presence here is still a violation. Lord Otis reveals himself to have formerly trained Azriel as a child, and after a few well-placed jibes of the Shadow Singer, Gwen is angered and challenges Otis to a fight. Azriel insists against it, but Otis agrees. With Azriel continuing to protest, Otis and Gwen begin their fight, and it quickly becomes apparent that Otis has no intent of going easy on Gwen, and that he intends to humiliate her. And that is the end of chapter 8.
And it's so good. And it's so
Divine female rage at the end of that chapter, too.
I'm trying to remember if the exact quote. I was like, maybe I would. Oh yeah. No, it was this chapter. Okay. This like one sentence.
I'm so excited.
And it's just Azrael being powerful.
Oh.
To the visual of it. The Shadow Singer pulled a longsword from his back and gripped the hilt with both hands. Then, without taking his eyes off his target, and with a feral growl, he threw the blade over his head. Just like picturing.
Yes!
Without.
I wish you could have seen my biggest comments, and they were like, over his head? And I was like, over his head.
Like, yeah, the two-handed it's good every single time. Also, I love how like Azrael is like, oh my gosh, like I went feral, and then Kevin's like, yeah, you did go feral, and then he's just like, I have no idea why, and then he just like
This is also the first time Azrael's kind of been cognizant of it too. So Cassian's like, yeah, you did. Did you're self-aware now?
Yeah, I'm like, so you know, like, I love that. I love that I love that, like, Ezra's like, I've never done this before. He's like, I've never just, like, unalived everyone and left no one to interrogate. Why are we don't talk about Sangraval. We can't talk about the fact that I did all.
Cassian's like, one other time involving the same person.
I have nothing else to compare it to, which is just so funny because I'm like, that was a situation. I'm sure Reese was so mad that Azrael didn't leave any survivors. He's like, they were literally, we could have, because at that point they didn't know who was the ones like technically like doing it, right? They were like, we knew,
yeah,
but like they didn't know like for sure.
Yeah.
Like, so like I imagine how mad he would have been. I bet we might get that as like a flash.
That's Cassian's moment for me. Like, everybody has a moment except for Reese, who knew, they find out during this fic that they're mates. And this is Cassian's moment where he's like, oh, fuck.
At another time, and like another, like later,
yeah.
What's his face says, it was, like, it's Cassian to Azrael. It's like, does Nesta suspect? And then Cassian's like, relax, Az. Nesta hasn't said a thing to me. All right, good, that's good. Azrael affirmed. And then I was like, that's total BS. Those two are like literally the CEOs of Gwynreal. Like, they are literally gossiping about it. Like, as
yes.
Like,
also, you have a partner of like a long-term partner. Tell them everything.
Like, there's no way. Like, did you see the way he looked at her? Did you see the way? Okay, I both saw it. Like, I know that they're doing that. I know that
they absolutely are.
Like, like there, and like Emery, I think that like I think Cassian calls Nesta and Emery and is like, we need to have a talk because this is going on, and they were like, yeah, obviously this is going on. He's like, why weren't you talking to me about this? And then it became like a little network.
Does it need saying?
Oh, and I'll get to that one. That's a thing. When Azriel tells her, I won't try to stop you. You mistake me. I want to discuss how we should proceed at the war camp. Like, I was just like, yeah, because he can't stop her. And like, he, in past, like, he will try to prevent women from doing anything at all.
Yeah.
Not canonical endgame behavior.
No, it is not.
It is not, as SGM said in her Akasif Live thing, like, you know, like,
come at me, Twitter.
the men who like their men they stand, they watch, they allow the women to, you know, like, do their thing, and even though they, you know, aren't necessarily a fan of them being in danger, they let them do their thing, just like how wasn't excited about Gwen being in the right with
nobody wants to babysit. Nobody wants a partner to babysit them. Like, if they do, that's not a good partner.
And subconsciously, he's not going out of his way to do that with Gwen at that point. So it's just an interesting thought. And then I wrote in all cap, Gwen fighting Lord Otis.
I love that the straw that breaks the camel's back with Gwen and Otis is him teasing Azriel. Like, she doesn't care that he's, like, accusing her of imposing her beliefs, doesn't care about all this, and then he teases Azriel, and she's like, we're gonna go.
And then it goes against your beliefs.
She's like,
literally has just learned just how much he hates these people, and she's like, you know what? Now I kind of...
No, I get it. She's like, this is the one.
Like, that's my friend. You're not gonna say that's my husband. That's my husband friend.
That's my husband. My husband.
My mate. I mean, my friend. I mean, Azriel.
I mean, he's nobody. I wouldn't even consider him a friend.
As to consider him a friend, but how am I? I don't know.
I normally despise writing combat. I had the best time writing this next scene.
Before it too.
Oh, thank you.
Like,
I mean, the sword. Yeah.
I like that I like the way that you include like that Valkyrie techniques are what they're trying to demonstrate, and it's like, like, see how this can be an improvement upon what has like already come, and it's like just quietly teaching them that.
Yeah, the joining of the forces between the Valkyrie and the female Illyrians, I love.
I also love the way the next chapter starts. Like, for someone so afraid of her blood, Lord Otis seemed awfully eager to spill it. Gwen thought, I was like,
oh my god, when I tell you that line, just like, I sat down to write that chapter and the line just spilled, and I was like, oh, where did that come from? I love that line. I love that you quoted that. That's one of my favorites.
I remember being like, man, what a perfect start. Because I remember when it came out, I was like, this is a great start to this. Like, because I remember I read it was like the first thing I read that day. Because like
we're gonna get to it in a second, but I'm not afraid to admit it. I was so turned on by Gwen grabbing the back of Otis's head and like wrenching it back. I was like, mommy. Immediately.
I don't have that. I'm more just like, mother, go. She's mothering. Mother is mothering.
I get that. Okay.
Believer that she needs to. In the different context, the spicy context of her and Azriel in the future, obviously that mother, as you would say, mommy, I would say mother, needs to come out, and he needs to be begging. Just
I will say this, in Rise of the Valkyrie, y'all get the spice in Chapter 3. Like, it's fast.
Chapter 3, man. Chapter 3 in every context is just...
I mean, if you're not counting the prologue, it's Chapter 3. Which you should. Chapter 3, one of my betas just got to it today, and she was like, already? And I was like, yeah, they're together now.
I mean, yeah, you don't have to wait now. Like, literally.
I mean, I won't say anything else.
Oh, no.
I won't say anything else. Okay.
stress me out with this one, and I'm gonna be
I
like,
swear to God, nobody's gonna get separated. I promise. I would not do that.
yeah, I know, but like you were like, this is a Gwynreal fic, and as every day I was stressed they were both gonna die, and
I
like,
will say this for everybody. No more near-death experiences. I'm not Sarah J. Maas. I'm not gonna kill them multiple times and bring them
you
back
did
to
that
life.
with this, and I was like, every 5 seconds, and I was like, God, I was so stressed. I was like, this is so stressful. Like, not every single time. It wasn't like, oh well, like she makes them survive. I'm never thinking about, oh, they're gonna be fine. I'm just sitting in the moment. I'm like, this.
I will say for me, what happens instead is almost worse.
Oh, great. So
I just feel for me, because I get stressed out by this stuff, it's worse. Other people, I think everybody's going to be relieved except for me.
I'm very interested to see what that means.
Yeah, you'll see. Okay, chapter 9. From Gwyn's POV, Lord Otis and Gwyn spar for a while, the latter not holding back at all. Eventually, Otis gets tired and Gwyn manages to get her dagger to his throat, but before she can ask if he yields, the warlord reveals that this was a trick to get her guard down. He her in the stomach, knocking the wind out of her, and resumes his attack, coming at Gwyn with his dagger poised toward her face. Gwyn manages to dodge just in time and brings Otis to his knees, pulling his arm behind his back and dislocating it. When Otis finally yields, Gwyn leaves the ring and finds Azrael absolutely fuming from the sidelines. He approaches Otis, who demands he set his dislocated arm before his Illyrian healing kicks in. But when Azrael only glowers in response, Otis makes a crude remark about Gwyn that sends the Shadow Singer into a fit of rage. He descends upon Otis and beats the living hell out of him, reminding Gwyn of the night in Sangrava where he had ruthlessly defended her. Gwyn is sent into a panic. Nesta and Emery try to comfort her, and Azrael continues to beat Otis. Cassian and a healer manage to pull Azrael off the warlord, but it isn't until Gwyn begs Azrael to stop in a quiet voice that he stops snarling and stills. Back at Emery's, Gwyn avoids speaking to Azrael the rest of the day. It isn't until after dinner when she suggests that she and Azrael handle the dishes for everyone that they are alone again. When Nesta, Cassie, and Emery all head outside to enjoy a bottle of wine, Gwyn washes the dishes with Azrael and confronts him. Gwyn tells Azrael that while she is grateful for his loyalty, the violence he enacted on her behalf today was totally unnecessary and she never wants him to behave that way again. Azrael is taken aback and says that he thought she would be grateful that he defended her honor. Gwyn said that she doesn't need him to defend her honor or protect her. She needs him to empower her like he used to before they were married. Azrael insists that if they're to be seen as a married couple, he needs to be convincing, and Gwyn retorts that behaving like an ill-mannered brute is not love, that he is doing a feeble impression of what a mate should be. Gwyn ends the conversation by saying, Azrael beating someone senseless because they've made crude comments is not love, not that I would expect you to know anything about that, then storms away. Later, after Nesta, Cassie, and Emery have gone to bed, Azrael joins Gwyn outside beneath the stars. Gwyn feels guilty for saying he knew nothing of love, but Azrael thanks her for her brutal honesty and admits that he has a history of bad behavior when women he knows are insulted. He admits that Gwyn is right, that he is doing a feeble impression of what he imagines a good partner is, and that's why he never won Moore or Elaine's hearts. He was always hoping his actions would be interpreted as love, but he never showed it. Gwyn still apologizes for her bluntness, and Azrael vows never to brutalize anyone on her behalf again. She says that's fine as long as they're still friends. And Azrael replies that he is always her friend. From Azrael's POV, the next morning, Azrael sits on the roof of Emery's home, keeping an eye out for Rhys and Feyre. He's halfway through Death on the Midnight Caravan with no idea who the culprit is. Cassian joins him and asks how many books Gwyn has gotten him to read. He admits this is the fourth. Cassian then goes on to ask if everything is sorted between him and Gwyn. Azrael says that they reconciled last night, but Cassian presses that that isn't what he meant. He clarifies that Azrael is different with Gwyn, and he believes that they should give whatever is between them a real shot. It takes Azrael a few moments to admit that he is falling for Gwyn, and when he does, he is ashamed. When Cassian asks him why, he explains that Gwyn chose him as her husband because things were supposed to be platonic, and now he's ruined that by falling for her. Cassian says he can just keep it to himself for the remainder of the trial, and then maybe talk to her about pursuing whatever they have after the dust settles. Azrael agrees and makes Cassian promise to say nothing. Rhys and Feyre dine with Emery, Nesta, Gwyn, Cassian, Azrael, in Emery's kitchen for breakfast. Azrael is dreading his brother finding out about his outburst at the war camp yesterday, but everyone covers for him, minimizing the damage done. Rhys goes so far as to commend as days of the trial so close, Azrael and Gwyn should be seen together as a couple. Gwyn immediately offers to take a morning stroll through town with Azrael. The Shadow Singer is thrilled at the idea and feels slightly guilty for being excited, as he knows it's because his feelings for Gwyn are growing, but agrees anyway. That is the end of chapter 9.
Gwen's anger in the thing that fuels her to win is when Lord Otis breaks the rules, and she's like, "That's cheating." Like,
I love that detail.
that is cheating, and I don't like a cheater. So I will win this. I thought that was so funny.
She goes, gloves are off.
It was just like me for real, like the most tiny. Like, you broke the rules. The rules.
What do you mean? You didn't say Uno? You don't win.
She's just like, the rules are there. Like, she is someone who recognizes that, like, the rules are there to keep it safe, like, to keep things okay. And so I don't think that Gwen is. I think that Gwen, because I am projecting myself here, like, it's not as much of like being a rule follower in the way of like, oh, because it's the rule. It's because she understands the rule and why it's there.
Yeah.
And like, that's why she respects rules, is because they're there for a reason. Rules that she thinks are dumb, she would, like in this case, like, she's like, this whole thing is dumb. Why am I on trial? I did nothing wrong. Like, that's a case of like, she's like, the rule is dumb. But when it's a rule and it's there for a reason, oh, that's what.
Yeah.
Also, she's like, do you yield? And he like smiles up at her, and I was like, danger zone.
Yeah.
And then of course, Asriel, please heal my arm. I'm just a baby. And then
Asriel goes.
So what I'm picturing when he like just like leaves on that man is just like, do you want what he's having? Like that audio.
That kills me.
Like, just
oh my God.
Like very, like, I picture it like it's difficult to watch. Like, it's so like, it's just it's so relentless. Like, and it's in fiction, that's a fun thing to read. In reality, that would be very terrifying. Also, when his eyes were wild, it reminded me of when Rhys missed like a huge fraction of the army in
Akawar.
And he never breaks eye contact with Farrah as he does it, and then his eyes get like, crazy, and I was like, that's what I was picturing, was just like that feral.
It's enough to make Gwen, who has seen some horrible things, start shaking, which says a lot.
And then obviously she's like, she calls him out. I like that he pushes back and is like, listen, yeah, it was scary, but like, he insulted your honor. And she's just like, my honor? That's interesting. She's like, no, that's not what this is about. Like, it's also like a commentary on women deal with these kind of comments all the time. Like,
oh yeah,
like, we do, like, do I like it? No, but like, these are the kind of like dumb comments that men like this make. And if that was like your concern, then like, fine, but also like, this wasn't about me, and you know it. And he's like, it wasn't about you. And she's like, no. And then he gets put in his place, as he should.
I thought that was so important to have happen, because like with Morrigan, when he freaked out on Eris and everything, she was shaking and she never talks to him about it, which makes me think that Asriel like has never had anybody go, you're too much. So that's why I had him push back, was I was like, nobody's ever told him.
If I walked into the night court, the first thing I would do is look at that man and be like, you need to resolve your mommy issues immediately, because making it everyone else's problem. And like he's giving those kind of guys who like paint their nails and think they're like the peak feminism. Like, I wear a string of pearls on my neck, I'm a feminist. Like, no, you're not, sir. Sit down and shut up.
He's a big white knight boy too.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's so,
yeah.
And I get it. Like, you want to like, oh wow, like it's just so easy to like psychoanalyze him. Damn it. And sir, get kicked off of the internet for that.
No, you'll be fine.
Oh, the fact that the other three definitely can overhear them have this argument.
Oh my God, they're literally sitting on the porch on the other side of the window, and like, you know that they're like,
but they're all kind of like.
I'm just imagining Cassian telling some raunchy joke, and then Nesta just being like, shut up.
Do you hear that? And then Cassian just sitting there like.
He's like. Yeah.
When she says like the line of like, not that I would expect you to know anything about that.
Oh God.
I would have said the same thing. I would have said the same thing.
It's such a hard hitter.
And I was like she
Does he?
no, like, I mean, he clearly, like, I think one of my issues with like the way that like Azriel is treated is he's almost like treated with kid gloves. It's like,
Yeah.
you don't need to coddle him. Like,
Yes, that's something that I like that I mentioned in the fic and like early chapters that Gwen has made him aware of is that his family tiptoes around and he's like, whoa, has everybody always tiptoed around me like this? Is this a thing with me? Like, why is Gwen so refreshing?
literally. And then when he says, I'll keep the facade up of a protective brooding husband, nothing more. And she's like, and my friend? And then he's like, always your friend, Berdara.
I love the nickname of Berdara too.
One of my favorite tropes of all time is and especially in fics, is like always referring to the other person as the last name, and then when it gets like when there's a serious moment, like they call them by their first name. Like, I fully expect that to be a thing with like Gwen and Az in the future.
He's Shadow Singer always, and then eventually
Azriel. And like that was the one thing she like whispers it, and that was enough to get him to like.
Yeah.
I want him to
that he's like, have you read that new Sel and Drake book? Because it's good.
Yeah, he's like, have you read this one?
So good.
Like, it's really good. And then, Berdara gets through your thick skull and sends you on your way with a smile. He's like, hey, so you get very worked up whenever someone pushes you, but when she pushes you, you're at the end, you're like, like giggling and walking away.
She said to him something so unfair. She was like, you don't know anything about love. And then she stormed away, and he came out, and he was like, so you're right. And like
I should apologize. And he's like, no, you were right. And then I was like, she is right. She shouldn't have said that, but she was right.
She's right.
Then I ended it with just talking about the thing about how Nesta and Cassian definitely do gossip about it. And
Nesta and Cassian are listening.
Like the whole thing of Azriel reading the book and then realizing everyone else knew the whole time, and then he's the one that just doesn't know. And I was like, yeah, that's literally my power.
Oh no, you're fine. Okay.
Yeah, and then the next chapter.
Okay, this is probably, not many people know this. This is my favorite chapter in the whole story.
I love all the chapters, but I love this chapter.
I knew you would. Okay, good. Okay, chapter 10. From Azriel's POV, on their walk, Azriel thanks Gwen for not ratting him out to Rhysand for being such a brute to Otis. Gwen accepts his thanks and laces her fingers with his. Azriel's stunned by the gesture of her holding his hand, and Gwen takes notice. Azriel explains that he's not used to people touching his hands, and he understands why. Gwen says he's ridiculous because he believes the whole of him is so objectively handsome, he finds the one thing that's not objectively handsome to be shameworthy. Azriel teases her for admitting he's attractive, and Gwen says that it's not a secret he's handsome. Gwen asks if he'll tell her what happened to his hands, and he promises to disclose that to her another time. From Gwen's POV, Gwen is helping set the dining room table for dinner with Nesta and Emery tonight. The Valkyries, Cassian, Feyre, and Rhys will all be sharing a meal in preparation for the trial to take place tomorrow with a jury this time, where Gwen and Nesta will be confronted for their atrocities. Nesta and Emery tease Gwen for her crush on Azriel, saying they're certain he doesn't know. The Valkyries hatch a plan to get Cassie and Azriel drunk tonight by keeping their wine glasses full in hopes of getting the general to do a dramatic reading of a smutty novel called The Prince's Promises. Their plan succeeds, and not long after supper, Cassian is reading from the book aloud, and Azriel is properly buzzed. Gwen makes an effort to get him to sing, but Azriel declines, saying that he doesn't want to scare anyone with how his shadows behave when he sings, and he doesn't know why Gwen is so insistent that he sing when she doesn't even know if he's any good. Gwen reminds him that she already told him she finds him perfect in every way, and Azriel tells her playfully to stop flirting. The comment makes Gwen aroused and embarrassed by the scent that Azriel can pick up on, so Gwen excuses herself to Emery's bathing chambers, claiming she's ready to retire for the evening. During her bath, Gwen touches herself to the image of Azriel and wishes he had followed her upstairs. Gwen goes to bed and is woken from her sleep by the door to her bedroom banging open. Azriel is slouched in the doorway, clearly intoxicated. Gwen helps him into bed, teasing him for getting so drunk and asking how much his wings weigh because he's awfully heavy. Azriel boasts that he has the biggest wingspan of his brothers and asks that if that impresses Gwen. She says she doesn't care how well endowed he is, insisting he take off his shirt. Azriel asks if removing his shirt would impress her, and Gwen remarks that it would impress a number of priestess trainees. If he really wants to impress her, he'll sing. Azriel apologizes for teasing her for flirting with him and says he knows she wasn't. Gwen asks what if she had been flirting, and Azriel dozes off. Gwen climbs into bed, and just when she thinks Azriel won't answer, he replies that he would wonder how he became worthy of the affection of someone as good as her. Then he vomits. Gwen cleans him up and tucks him in, knowing that he won't remember any of this, but being grateful that it happened nonetheless. From Azriel's POV, when Azriel wakes the following day, he remembers nothing, but knows that he owes Gwen an apology for whatever drunken behavior he indulged in that led her to be embarrassed. Before they leave for the tribunal hall, Azriel makes Gwen a large cup of tea and apologizes. She forgives him easily, and with Balthazar, the Valkyries, Cassian, and Azriel make their way to the courthouse. Azriel asks Gwen what she's thinking, and she gives him a pleading look, saying she would prefer not to voice her fears. Azriel responds by kissing her brow. When they arrive at the building, Gwen stares at it, and Azriel thinks it reminds him of the way she had looked at the ribbon before she cut it. He reminds her that she is the Rock, and
The audio cut out a little bit, I think, but I think it came back. Okay.
oh,
It was just like the last part. Yeah, this is the longing,
okay, good.
the fluff that takes place in this chapter.
Audio is
Wait, is it
there. We
okay?
go.
Okay. First note.
It was my headphones.
Oh, okay. First thing I had written was in all caps, Gwen doesn't hesitate to hold his hand. Also, and then all caps, Gwen makes Azriel blush. I just love that entire scene of just oh, so you do recognize that my hands are imperfect. And she said, I said objectively, not subjectively. And then I was just like,
yes. As in they are ruined, yeah.
Yes, I love that. Cassian being aware that Nesta's trying to goad him into drinking more than Azriel and then doing it anyway is very heartwarming. Like, he's just like, I know what you're doing, Nesta, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I can. And then
He wants to read.
he wrote, tell them I'm right, Nesta.
Oh, about the breath bitching.
Just drunk Azriel is... I also, him having like hiccups is just iconic.
Oh my god, I love that he has hiccups.
I just that he's like trying to flirt with her, like the casual mention of how long his wingspan is, how big his wingspan is.
I have the biggest wingspan of all my brother.
He's like, I would never brag about this sober, but I will brag about it to you right now.
I love that he's like, what about it? What do you think? She's like, I don't care.
The fact that she's like, you're gonna go to bed with all your clothes on, and he's like, would you like it if I took my shirt off?
Would you like me to get naked? He's like, what do I gotta do?
And then he's still like literally blacked out, and he's still like, I'm sorry that I teased you. I shouldn't have done that. I'm like, okay, how are we self-conscious even at this point?
Yeah.
And then of course I had the if you'd been flirting, I would wonder how I became worthy of the affection of someone so good.
I know. I love that line so much.
Good like contrast of like, because people will be like, oh well, the conversation with like Elreal in the bonus chapter and the way that he's thinking about her in the bonus chapter,
Yeah,
as like this pure thing that he like and I like personally like, hey, listen, I love a man think like just being desperate for her, but also
yeah.
I found it strange that he, was just like this idolized version of her, whereas he's like, this one is like, it's so subtly different, where it's like oh my gosh, like someone I'd be worthy of you as a good person flirting with me, rather than like I need to worship this perfect thing.
Yeah, it's not about like how pretty she is. It's about
it's
like what you said. She's his compass.
Yes, like it's literally like him being like, wow, I'm like, it's literally demonstrating like the two-way function of, he's like, wow, like if she did, whereas like with, maybe I shouldn't be talking about this because I know that people get angry, but who cares? But like the contrast with Elaine, from my opinion, my perspective, it's my opinion, it's the way that he feels about the idea of her rather than like the way that she feels about him. She never really Like, she gives indications that she's into it, but like she's not like saying things that in that moment where it's like, a two-way street. But yeah, and then just I wrote, I'm screaming the entire thing. I
I love this chapter. It's so fluffy. It's such a nice break after Otis and
I love
everything.
she's like, I am the second she's like, I need to go. I have to leave. I have to leave before he can even like bye.
If Azrael looked at you in the eye and like smiled and was like, "Stop flirting with me," I don't know about you, but I'd be like,
I'd be like, I have to look up some impenetrable shield spells.
I have to go. I have to discover deodorant.
It's like a sex positive thing of of like, oh, everyone can. I don't want anyone knowing that. I
No.
don't. I would be so embarrassed.
Especially if you're Gwen, whose like whole insecurity around this marriage thing is she doesn't want people to like be like, oh, look at her after everything she's been through. She's married. Like that's that. I think that's the biggest deal for her is like, oh no, people are gonna be like, good for Gwen. She's not scared of sex and pleasure and stuff.
Please stop defining me. But please, in the world, stop defining me by this thing.
Yeah, and she even says to Nesta, like, treat me like a person. And I think that's like, I love that line too.
It makes me so mad when like people were like, "Well, I actually respect Gwen. That's why I wouldn't ship her with girl."
Treat her like you would Feyre. You ship Feyre with Rhysand.
Yep. Yeah, they don't care.
No, it's not. It's never. It's not really about protecting sexual assault survivors. Is the
Yep.
thing.
Because if they did, they would care about her having a choice. Oh.
But you don't. No, 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 no. You don't want to hear about Gwen having a choice.
It's like, also, guess what? She's not real, so it's okay.
She's not real. This next chapter 11 breakdown is the longest one yet, and there's a reason for that.
I want to hear every word.
Here we go. Hold on, I'm gonna take a drink. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, hi. Wait, I didn't even see you, Chris.
Okay, I was wondering if this was a person you knew or not. I was gonna be like, somebody's saying hi to you, but then you weren't saying anything. I was like, what if this is a person she doesn't want here?
I get so focused in that I forget. But
Hello, Chris. Thank you, I think. Okay, chapter 11. From Azriel's POV, Gwen, Nesta, and Imri practice a bit of mind-stilling as they wait for the magistrates and jury to arrive. Balthazar tells Azriel and Cassian that today the witnesses called forward by the magistrates will likely all be biased against Gwen and Nesta, helping to sway the verdict towards guilty. The two Valkyrie may need to hold their tongues. The magistrates take their places on the stand, and Cassian and Azriel approach Gwen and Nesta to impart what comfort they can before the trial begins. While Cassian does this through jokes, Azriel is at a loss until his shadows urge him to do something. He then reminds Gwen of how strong she is. She says she doesn't feel strong, and Azriel said that's because it's like breathing to her. She does it every second of the day. He also promises her that after the trial they'll do something nice together. He also tells Gwen not to look at the jury or magistrates, but him, Cassian, Imri, and Balthazar. Gwen agrees. The jury begins to filter in and fill the pews. The magistrates have Gwen and Nesta state their names for the jury and state that they deny the charges. They also tell the jury that Gwen and Nesta both have partners who have opted to accept their punishment, a development that the jury is audibly dissatisfied with. After introducing the case, the magistrates call forward a number of witnesses. The first few speak of Nesta fighting like a hellion and relishing the deaths of her competitors. Nesta is not moved and laughs at one point. The last witness points to Gwen before making his speech, causing her to flinch, and Azriel nearly rises and attacks him. The male goes on to say that he saw Gwen lead the beast to the camps and that she is the reason there are childless parents and brotherless sisters, etc. Azriel sees Gwen's face drain of color, and Cassian has to restrain him from attacking the witness. Azriel's shadows impart that the male truly grieves. The witness is cut off by Crispin, the eldest magistrate, for being too emotional. Fabius thanks the male anyway, and the court is adjourned. Azriel escorts Gwen out the back, away from the jury and their group in an effort to keep her away from the crowd. When Gwen asks where they're going, he reminds her that he told her they were going somewhere nice and flies her away. He does not mention that they are also leaving because he's tempted to tear out the witness's throat for making her feel guilty for surviving. Azriel flies them to a mountain, sets them on a cliff's edge overlooking a forest he knows well. He and Gwen sit, and he worries she may hurl herself over the side after what she experienced during the tribunal. After a moment of silence, he reminds Gwen that she did nothing wrong in surviving, that she mustn't allow the witness to make her regret living. He tells her she cannot blame herself for what she had to do, and Gwen disagrees, saying that her actions were preemptive. She had spied the males plotting, and before they did anything, she led the beast to them. Azriel tells her this was wise, and Gwen insists she should have given them the chance to do the right thing and change their minds. Instead, she took that chance away. Azriel tells her that they would not have changed their minds given the opportunity, and while Gwen says he may be right, she'll never know for sure because she ensured they unalived first. Gwen goes on to say that she maybe deserves to be punished, enraging Azriel, who tells her she must never say that again. He takes her hands without thinking and asks her that if it was another priestess in her shoes, would she say that that person needed to be punished? Gwen does not answer, only weeps and falls into Azriel's chest. After a while, she admits that today was particularly hard because it brought back a challenge she's fought to overcome for some time. After she survived Sangrava, she punished herself in an effort to make up for surviving when Katrin did not. Azriel tells Gwen that guilt won't settle the score, all it will do is eat away at her. Gwen says he's right, and shifts to sit more in front of him with her back leaning against his front. Azriel winds his arms around her. They sit in silence for some time when Azriel asks what Katrin would have thought of him. Gwen says that Katrin would have probably teased him senseless, and Azriel asks if they both had merciless wit. Gwen says that Katrin had a silver tongue, while Gwen is just silly. Azriel insists that Gwen makes him laugh more than anyone else, and she thanks him. Azriel points out to Gwen a house in a clearing far away and informs her that it's Rose Hall, his birth father's estate that was given to his birth mother after his father and his family's fall from grace. She now lives there with a caretaker Azriel pays for. Gwen asks what Azriel's mother would think of her, and Azriel says that she would be very pleased Azriel married and stopped waiting for a mate. She would also like that his wife is someone who so routinely hands him his ass. Gwen says she thinks she would like his mother, and Azriel says that Gwen doesn't know her, so she can't tell. Gwen says she knows that she raised Azriel, and that Azriel has her eyes. After a moment of stunned silence, Azriel confirms he does have his mother's eyes. Gwen goes on to say that she notices that Azriel tries never to smile with his teeth because when he does, he looks too similar to his father. And again, Azriel confirms she's right. Gwen tells Azriel that he is not his father's son, but his mother's. But Azriel interrupts, saying they're here to comfort her, not him, and asks her to let him take care of her. She asks who takes care of him. Azriel says, you do. Their lips are dangerously close, and before they can kiss, Gwen reminds Azriel that she isn't really his wife. He says he knows. After another moment of silence, Gwen says she's frightened, but then kisses Azriel. Azriel kisses her back. Eventually, Gwen ends the kiss, reminding Azriel again that none of their relationship is real. Azriel confirms that he knows and apologizes, but Gwen insists she is in the wrong for kissing him. Azriel tells her not to think of it again, and they both forget it happened. He goes on to think to himself that he will remember enough for the both of them.
That line, that ending, like, I will remember.
It makes me so sad.
The fact that she says, like, I literally was like, I have like the fic pulled up, and then my notes in another tab, but it says like, forgive me, she insisted. It was Gwen trailed off, but he saw the end of the sentence in her eyes. It was my mistake. I'm like, that was not what she was thinking. She was saying like it was my fault, and he had kept saying that she was carrying all this guilt and that guilt is bad, and then she was like blaming herself, and then he would have been mad, but he thinks she's thinking that it was a mistake. No, she wasn't. I love them. So I also love that he it's like almost like an answer to when she grabs his hands in like the like on their walk, and then he like grabs hers, and I'm like, he's never like self-conscious about it after that. Like it's just like
that's all canon too. That's from the bonus chapter. He never thinks about his hands once with her.
I have some favorite moments. So Azriel said what came to his mind, not even attempting to hide the puzzlement in his tone. He shrugged, taking her hands in his. How do you take care of someone who's already so strong, Bradara? Gwen laughed, a weak sound. I don't feel strong. Of course you don't. It's like breathing for you. You don't acknowledge the act because you do it every second of the day. And the fact that she immediately goes, I bet you say that to all your wives. I was like, she just like me for real. Like, cannot take a compliment. Like
I
that.
know, she cannot go, thank you. She's like, what you say, that's all your wise.
One of my favorite quotes I've ever read into fan fiction, it's just so concise, is "Guilt won't settle the score, Gwen."
Oh, I love that
It's just
line.
like poignant.
It
And
won't settle the score. All it'll do is eat away.
the fact that she admits to him that she's frightened and that he's like, me too. And like, and the whole thing, there was a thing before then. Like it was when she says, "What if I'm a coward?" Like this was earlier in the fic. She says, "What if I'm a coward?" And he said, "You're not a coward, you're frightened." And the difference, a coward gives up. Someone who is frightened faces their fear. And so I in my mind, she remembered that, was like,
Yeah,
right. And he was like, "Me too." And then she's like, "So I'm not gonna
I'm
kiss
gonna kiss you.
I'm gonna kiss you because I'm not a coward. I'm brave." That was the moment I was thinking of, because I had gone through it and I did like a chapter before, and I like taken notes in the chapter before, like it was like chapter 5,
Yeah.
and I was like, just I had so many notes in that chapter, which is kind of funny that you already covered it. But like,
Oh,
I was just like trying to recover. I was like, where are we? Like, where exactly like am I in the story that like I need to like notice things? But in Jane the Virgin, there. I'm not a big fan of love triangles, but they do love triangles very well. But there are moments throughout, like it's like over like I think like maybe like 8,
mhm,
like, a few moments in her life. She's a writer, and she has to like make choices all the time of like, do I do the writing thing or do I do like teaching, or like I have these moments where like I would never call myself a writer. Like in the very very beginning, she's like, maybe I'm a writer, maybe I'm a teacher, and this guy tells her to be brave, and
mhm.
like so he like inspires her to take this leap, and then she like always remembers, like, and then at like pivotal moments in her life, she's like, I don't know what to do, and he's like, and he just says like, be brave. That's what like the thing about being like a coward gives up. Someone who's frightened faces their fear. And just how it makes her brave. And then I love them so much.
I
I
love that line so much. I just like that sentiment in general. Like I've heard it so many different ways,
Yeah,
and it's just so true.
but it's still like original. Like it feels,
It's very applicable to this situation as well.
yes. And he's like, the fact that she has to become comfortable living with fear,
Yeah.
almost like she has to become friends with fear. Like,
Ooh, that's beautiful, girl.
thanks, I'm afraid all the time.
Thanks, I'm afraid all the time.
But
That's, I'm
um
so quirky.
but just like thinking about that with like her like PTSD and like her, anxiety and like not wanting to be out. Like I think that, I mean, like in canon, like going forward, like Gwen's gonna, obviously she returns to the library, which is set up for her to leave the library in
Yeah.
in 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 a way that we can actually see, because her story's not done. Um,
No.
like we already know her story's not done, but like the fact that she has to live with the fact that she is afraid and then do things anyway is, I think, is just going to be so. But
I
the him saying that he's going to remember it for the both of them is just a lot for
him
me.
not even getting to say it, he thinks it because he's like, I can't say that out loud because I don't want her to know I have a crush on her. And he thinks
Also,
it.
yeah. So he interprets her like doing this over her mouth as like her wiping it away. I'm like, no, she's just like, wow, so like I kissed him. Like that in my mind. I'm like, that's what she's doing.
That's what it is. That's what it is. She's like, I just got kissed. And she was literally like touching herself last night thinking about it. She was like, it happened.
She's like, man, I manifested that. That is
I'm
like
gonna change the chapter title.
that is like a manifestation method of, that's like a thing that people
I
do.
did not know that.
They use that to, because it's like a burst of energy and it's like an intention and it's like a whole thing with that.
What is a witch?
I know. Which, I mean, I also just like headcanon that his mom is a witch for some reason.
Ooh, interesting.
I used to think, well, I guess we can talk about it now because we're like, right? We finished with.
Yeah, we just have a few questions for you.
Okay, yeah, ask those and then I'll talk more about that.
Okay. So my question for you is, what drew you to fanfic, and what kind of fanfics do you like to read? And when I say what kind, I mean like tropes, one shots. What's
Um,
your deal?
What drew me to fan fiction? I think we all know what drew me.
I don't. It's so many different things for people.
Word. A desire to... That was like I learned so much about myself as a teenager.
Oh yeah.
Too young with just like fan fiction in general. Um the early fanfics that I read were probably Harry Styles One Direction type fanfictions, despite like not even being a huge...
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming from you.
Oh yeah, what's funny is it was like kind of out of character. Like I wasn't like a huge One Direction person. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, like I love their stuff, but I wasn't like a, I wasn't a stan. I was a fan, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I loved Harry Styles above all else. But like, so I love the jokes about Harry Styles fan fictions because I'm like I read so many of them. But I don't really listen. I don't really. I mean, I don't read anything that's like, kind of similar to that anymore. But mostly because like the foundation of that kind of fan fiction is like, oh my god, like I don't even know who he is. My most famous video on my profile is me recreating like a Wattpad moment. It has 1.3 million views.
What? I need to find this.
I was on the floor. I was like second row at a Harry Styles concert. Like it was October of 2021, and I'm standing there, and I had this like big jacket on, and I had my mom sew a pocket in so I could sneak in my copy of The Great Gatsby.
Oh,
So I could be reading it in front of him and be like, "Who is this guy?" And,
get out.
like I don't even who is that guy? I don't know. Like so
You're amazing.
fan fiction is defining part of my life. And it definitely navigates the way it navigated those kind of moments. I was like, if I ever meet a famous person, I have to I just have to pretend I don't know them.
Yes.
Like that is literally that's all you can do. That is what
Although, if I ever run into Harry Styles, I'm telling him about this immediately.
if I ever run into Harry Styles, I would be deceased. No, I wouldn't.
Oh,
I would go into fight or flight and then start like bullying him. Probably it would be bad.
oh, you'd be like, what's her face on the red carpet with Andrew Garfield?
That is also me with Andrew. I actually relate so strongly to her. I'm like, she's just like me for real. I love her. Also, I
I
love
love her.
Garfield.
I love him so much.
I'm like, he's definitely too good to be true, but I still love him.
Yes, he is. Also, Alice, I love Maddie. I hope you like your bound copy because her work is beautiful.
Then it turned into. I'm trying to think of like other fanfics that I was reading, but I know that like the most fanfics I've ever read were Hermione.
Ah.
I've read a lot of Bucky Barnes fanfictions.
Oh, wow. That's surprising.
Is it? He is.
Yeah, I didn't know you were like a Marvel person.
Oh, I'm a huge Marvel person.
Nice.
I guess I just never. Azriel, like the fan art. There's a fan art of Azriel and Gwen as Winter Soldier and Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
That healed every part of me, and also broke part of me at the same time. I was screaming because I'm such a huge like I'm. It's probably bad, but like I just love Winter Soldier so much. Also,
No.
it was filmed like the famous Winter Soldier scene was filmed like 10 minutes from my house, like where I live right now.
No
I
shit.
get in like on that highway and just stand there and be like, yeah, that happened here. Like,
That's magical. That's borderline magical.
Hermione is probably the one I've read the most, and it's also like tropes are. I mean, definitely like I don't like like major character deaths. That's for sure. That's something I avoid.
I hate major
Lovers,
character deaths,
Lovers
yeah.
is like my favorite.
Enemies to lovers?
Yeah.
Good choice.
I don't like friends to lovers normally, but I will like it in the context of Gwenriel. They are the exception for me.
It has to make sense.
Yes, I like a slow burn.
I feel like sometimes I'm against friends to lovers because I like to believe that platonic friendships can exist between men and women, and most friends to lovers are heterosexual pairings.
It's almost like, but with like Gwenriel, it doesn't feel as much like enemies or not enemies, like friends to lovers, as it is like it's like a weird version of it where it's just like
It's like hybrid. It's like friend rivals to lovers.
Yes, it kind of combines like
Because they're challenging each other.
AU academic rival type thing, where like they're
Yeah.
um. But yeah, I'm trying to think of like any other tropes that I. Of course, now all tropes are gone.
What do
I'm
you
a
think? There's one bed, one
yeah.
horse.
That is obviously iconic. I like a good fake relationship.
Oh, I love a fake
I always
dating.
say that I don't, and then I like will watch something or read something with it, and I'm like the entire time. I'm literally
It all depends on the approach.
yeah.
Like, I feel like you can't draw out the idiots to lovers for too long. You have to have one of them or both of them realize, like, early to halfway in that they're in love.
I'm trying to think of other. I mean, fluff, hurt, comfort,
Mm,
hurt, comfort,
angst with happy ending is great too.
happy ending. Yeah, 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 yeah. Sometimes I like AU. I
Oh
mean, like,
yeah,
in the context of Hermione, it's all AU.
yeah, it's all AU.
But I
With
usually
ACOTAR, it has to be fantasy AU for me.
yes, yes. I was just gonna say like I don't like when like I don't like the idea of like
Modern day.
modern day. I'm like it's fine. I mean, I'll read it, but
You
like
might you might already be reading this person, but if you aren't, I highly recommend Separatist Apologist, who writes some really good Elucien AUs. She did a series about dragon shifters, and the first installment is Elucien. The second installment is Gwenriel, and the most recent is Nessian, and she's created a whole dragon shifter universe. It's
I
so good.
I love that so much. Oh my
I
god,
think you'd like it. If you read it, please let me know. It's really, they're all like 4 chapters each, but they're like 30,000 words. Like they're big.
I just
Um,
the Tumblr and it says simp for fictional ginger men.
yeah.
I
Yeah, it's her illusion stuff is great. Her first Gwynreel was the dragon Gwynreel, and Asriel as like a dragon shifter. It's just great. It's just great.
do you still have the burns?
Oh, I think so. Yes, yeah.
That's all.
Different story to how we got him. I think Lucian has both eyes though.
Oh, wow.
But that one's the story of him and Elaine, like, is really good because she just wants to have a happily ever after, but she's been offered up as a sacrifice to this dragon, and he just wants to have a happily ever after too. So they're like a cute little happily ever after. And Gwen is also offered up like to the dragon, and it's Asriel. Well, no, she runs away into the forest with the dragon, and Asriel takes her. It's good. It's very good. And it's really well written. Just Separatist Apologist needs to become a full-time writer. She breaks her back with these fics.
Oh, I
Uh,
love one of their like linked their master on their master list. The mating bond is real and Lucian is not the villain. Exactly.
you would like a lot of their takes.
I mean like one of my most popular videos on my account right now is my Lucian video of me saying like just like even though you don't like it, like just because you don't like it, it doesn't mean that they're not mates. Like they are still mates. They
Yeah.
don't have to end up together, but they do make sense on paper like a lot.
Gabriel hasn't read any of the books. He just reads his lines, and he can tell you. He's like, it's him and Elaine. Like, he knows. It's clear for everybody. Also, he takes such. I told him that a lot of the L reels are like when Lucian learns Elaine is his mate. He says he like claims her in front of everyone, and Gabriel
He whispers it to him. Yeah, Gabriel
in
literally.
a broken voice. Gabriel put so much work, he said, into sounding like broke. Like, and if you listen to it, he like, oh, the way he delivers it. I told him that it was being used on TikTok, his soundbite, as an argument, and they were like, "Listen to this. This is how," and he was like, "Oh, that's so sweet. They used the video."
Gabriel, no, Gabriel, no.
I had to like I did an interview with him like on an IG Live once, And I had to explicitly state to everybody that he had not been Alan Rickman. He doesn't know anything extra about the ACOTAR series.
Oh,
Please do not ask him the fate of Lucian. The guy didn't even know that he was Helion's son. I was the one who told Gabriel that Lucian is Helion's son.
he would have been in those scenes. Like he's not like present for that.
No, he literally only has Lucian's information when he does these scenes. And so whenever we're talking about it, I'm like, "Are you sure you want me to tell you?" And he's like, "Yes, tell me."
I need to be informed, even though Lucian doesn't know this, or
Even
does.
though Lucian, he likes to know it though, because like he was like telling me he retroactively wishes he could go back and do Akatar with that mindset that Andros was like
Oh,
his lover.
a scorned lover. Yeah, I always just figured he was. For some reason, I was like, man, he's really playing it up. Like I thought he was. I was like, he's an actor.
he Dude, he's so talented. I've seen his other stuff too. He's just such a good actor. And I asked him like it's so the thing was is that I just made a video talking about how much I liked him, and telling people to go follow him because he only had 50 followers on TikTok. And next thing I know, he's messaging me and he's like, "That's so sweet. I saw your video. Thank you so much." And then we both started talking because we were both actors, and we just like bitch about acting so much to each other, and then occasionally Avatar will come up.
Yeah.
So I have questions from Instagram for us. So a couple are for me, and then a couple are for both of us. The first question I have is Rise of the Valkyrie also Outlander inspired? Kinda. In the way that Jamie and Claire go to France and like have to brave this new world together as like a unit. That's Gwen and Az going to the Autumn Court together because that's where 90% of the fic takes place. That's not a spoiler. You're going to learn that in the first 3 chapters. But not as much. It's more House of the Dragon inspired. What I just love the divine female rage in that show.
I love
And
that.
when I tell you that there is remember when Rhaenyra comes back to the camp with the boar for the hunt? There's a scene like that in this, and it is my favorite thing.
I love that show.
This next one's for both of us. Do you think canonically Gwen will make the first move or Az? I think Gwen will.
Yeah, I fully believe it'll be Gwen.
Yeah, and I don't think it has anything to do with him being afraid to approach her because her SA. I think Gwen is just the one. He like talks about how like irreverent and honest she is. If she feels the mood is right, she's not going to hesitate.
Yeah. Or like she'll have a bunch of moments where she does hesitate that he doesn't even realize she's hesitating, and then she's like, "No, I'm just gonna do it." Like that, she's thought about it enough times. Like this, she overthinks every interaction that they have. Probably like
You're killing me. Oh, I love that idea.
like she's like, "You don't notice how many times I've hesitated," and he's like, I don't know, like I don't know," and then like I like the idea of him being very clueless because
Well, nobody pursues him. He's always the pursuer, so I feel like he won't recognize if she's
yeah,
pursuing him.
yes, or like he's used to being pursued at like a superficial level because he thinks that anybody who actually gets to know him wouldn't like him like that.
Yeah, they just think he's pretty.
He's like, well, no one like nobody would pursue me if they actually knew me because that's how it's been every single time. Like nobody, who actually knows me. He also doesn't let anyone know him, but like
I have like a whole Tumblr headcanon piece about how Azriel talks, and it's based on my husband actually. Azriel talks so much around Gwen, like more than with any other person. And then eventually his family sees it happening, and they're like, "Who the fuck is this
if
guy?"
you haven't read this, I'm aware of this. I've read everything you've ever put on Tumblr.
Oh my god!
I'm fully updated. My favorite is that like Gwen is like resistant to his flirting, and then he tries.
Yeah, she's like,
It's like something really small that like breaks her, and he's like, "I'm gonna do that all the time."
I can't remember what it is that he does that finally breaks her, but I love that he like flexes his muscles, and she's like,
Just like
okay.
it's just like I don't know what to do.
Okay. Oh, this is a great question. What's the biggest reason you think Gwynreal are in game?
Biggest. Okay, I think of like the number.
My biggest is pretty meta.
Okay, then you say yours, because then I'll.
Okay. We've talked about it a little bit. I just think it is insane that in the same book Gwyneth Bedara gets introduced. That is the same book in 5 books that we learn what the mating ceremony entails, and Sarah J. Maas sees fit to invent an entire rite revolving around a ribbon, which we learn is in a ceremony. And this ribbon that Gwen has is tied to her and Asriel working together to cut this. That it's such a meta reason. I know that but that's just how my brain
So
operates.
I like it's just like on like it's one of those. I don't know if I have like one thing,
You
and
can do your favorite if you want, your favorite
I mean
reason. Your most convincing.
everything is convincing. I mean, his shadows sing for her. Like, are you kidding? His shadows dance with her. His shadows love her. They like to. They don't just. They aren't just like. And before they even interacting with her, they're watching her. They're like peering over her shoulder. She interacts with them. She's like smiling at them, and then he's like, "Is she smiling at my shadows?" And then like she goes on, and then they're like, "We like her. We like Gwen."
They like her, and
Shadows
they're a part of him.
and like the people I know a lot of people think that I think that the problem is that people are trying to explain it away because
Yeah,
if his shadows liked Elaine and were like Elaine, they would feel the exact same way about it. And the fact that he literally says his shadows skitter away and they were always prone to vanishing around her, I'm like, okay, so
that because whenever we hear it from Feyre's point of view, that she kind of describes it in a positive way, like the shadows shy, the darkness goes away. But then he describes it, and it's like he doesn't describe it as a good thing that his shadows disappear. He says they vanish, and that whole chapter they're telling him to sleep. They care about him.
and the fact that he only ever work, I need to know, are they like do they get cranky if they don't sleep enough? Why can't they just sleep when he's like do they have to sleep when he sleeps? Like what's going on? I had so many. Do they have different personality or different? I need to know. Also, are there shadows that don't have personalities and are just like extensions of other? Are they like branches of each other?
There's a
There's so much.
whole deleted chapter. It was just too long. It didn't fit. It's like an alternate epilogue to Trial of the Valkyrie with Octavia asking Asriel
Oh,
all of those questions.
you should.
Because the first time they meet, she's like, "What are those? They're friends? Do they have names? How old are they?"
I
and
my headcanon with his shadows. Oh, I have it. I wrote it down because I was like, I feel like she might ask about what my favorite Gwenriel headcanon is. That Asriel bargained with the darkness to get his shadows. For he was bargaining for friends, and then he has a tattoo, and like he showed up to the camp with tattoo at like 11, and that Gwen will end up bargaining with them as well. And then they'll have matching sets of tattoos, and then they'll both and then like, his like shadows will be loyal to both of them.
that is lit as hell. I love that.
I mean, I'm fully. I don't know if you're aware of my obsession with her being a Thunderbird, but like it's canon to me at this point.
I
Like,
don't know. I don't know if I was the first person you messaged, but you sent me rapid fire 10 messages, and I was just sitting there going, "Whoa!"
you need to know all of it. I just figured out that 2 other characters in the SGM universe are also Thunderbirds that I'm pretty sure about. Um,
Oh, I can't wait to hear who.
yeah, I won't say here because
Okay.
it,
No,
it's
save
not.
it for your content.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. You're right. Um, but
You can message me about it later, though, if you want.
um, I'm trying to think of like what my like his shadows dance with her and they like her and he can't control them around her because they like her that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's oh, there was a little detail that I picked up the day that he shows up to spar with Cassian uh
Mm-hmm.
in Gakasev and Nesta's like thinking thoughts. Um she says that there's or maybe I don't know if it's her or Cassian like no, it's Cassian like narrating it. There's like one shadow that braves the sunshine around him. And anytime it's raining, it's clarified that it's raining. It's always
Uh-huh.
raining during training days. And the day that Gwyn asks, like, what do we get if we win? His shadows are dancing around him, and I'm like, and it doesn't say that it's raining, so I'm assuming it's not. I'm assuming it's sunny, which means that like they will brave the sun if Gwyn's there. In my mind,
I love that.
yeah,
I
like
also love it that they're dancing at her, being like, "What's my prize?" So
he's just like, and I picture them like breakdancing, like, yep, what's the prize? What's the prize? Tell her what's the prize.
that scene justifies your academic rivals thing too, because she's like, "What's my prize?" And he goes, "We didn't get one. You're not gonna win."
Do it. And he's saying that he's like, they're probably gonna keep telling me that they'll do it. He's just messing with her. He's like,
She goes, "Ah, "Well, but I'm pretty wrong."
he looks forward to do wrong and like flicks her hair over her shoulder, and then she like storms out, and that's when we get "You're the new ribbon."
Oh,
Like he saw how she was with the ribbon. Also, I need to know the details of their private dagger handling lesson that he was so eager to get back to.
he was like, "I gotta get back. I got dagger handling." I feel I'm writing a fic right now, and it's a one shot. And this isn't really a spoiler. You learn like in the first 2 pages where before Gwen got abducted, they were having a dagger handling lesson, and Azriel learned that she was his mate, and she was like, "I gotta go." And he was like, "No, no, 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 don't go, don't go, don't go." And he was like, "It doesn't mean anything. I don't care. I don't give a shit. We can just be friends. It's fine. I don't care. Just don't go." And the dagger handling lessons between them is just him being like, "What if this was a friendship thing? Like, it doesn't have to be a romantic thing. What if we're just divine friends?" And she's like, "Okay."
Literally, oh my god, I love that.
Yeah, it's also the way that he like announces it is so casual. Like she shows up in the training ring after a nightmare, and he just like peels out of nowhere, and she's like, "Oh, did you know I had a nightmare because of our stupid friendship bond?" And he's like, "Yes, I did."
Friendship bond. I could see her like saying like French, like just like rolling her eyes, like, oh, because you insist on calling it the friendship bond.
The friendship bond. And he's like, "Yes, I did."
I
Um,
oh my god, wait, you have to refer to it as their magical friendship bracelet. Like that it's like this like magical friendship
our
bracelet.
golden friendship bracelet that can be solidified through sex. I like the urge to make it a whole fic where like the whole time Gwen is just teasing him like nothing sexual about that is hilarious to me. Okay, this next question I'm so excited to ask you. The question was, do you write Gwen because you identify with her, and how do you identify with her? Um, I identify with both Gwen and Azriel. Like, I identify with Azriel in the way that I feel like I found and cobbled together a family for myself. I have members of my family who I care for greatly, but they're like I definitely cobbled together one. And then I identify with Gwen on a level where it's not very deep, but I also used smut to reacquaint myself with my sexual identity after a lot of stuff happened. And that's why it's so triggering for me when I see comments that she can't do this X, Y, and Z. I'm like, that makes me self-conscious. And it's very difficult to like fight the urge to be really shitty when people say stuff like that because I'm personally hurt and wounded and insecure about that stuff. So that's why I write Gwen and Azriel and yeah, I think I identify with everybody a little bit.
Yeah.
That's why, in spite of it being kind of Akatar being kind of like a subpar plot, we love it so much. I think is because the characters all have pieces of us. What about you? Do you identify with Gwen, and how so? If you're comfortable sharing, you don't have to.
No, I just that girl's just like her and I are the exact same person, just like copy paste, like for real. Like the fact that like the first she likes Nesta, not even just because Nesta's treating her like a person, but because Nesta's kind of mean. Like
Yeah,
I love a mean girl. I like not like mean, like, not in like a rule, but like I
you
love
like the blunt girl, the girl who's gonna tell you like it is.
yes, I enjoy people who are like on paper very like grating to other people, maybe.
Yeah,
I
it's
always
that person that you're like, I do not want this person as my enemy, but if they were my friend, they're gonna be an amazing friend.
yes, like I'm about to charm this person into friend, like that. Also, her attention to detail, her talking about how like the part where they're I remember everything. I swear to you, like it's because of like my theory brain, I think, but also because of my obsession brain. Like I know like everything that girl has ever done in canon, everything she's said, everything she's done, everything that she's described as. But like they're doing mind stilling and she's teaching it, and this is like, do you have it memorized? She's like, no. And she's like, oh, so you're doing it off the top of your head? And she's just like, you would have memorized it anyway. And she's like, yeah, I would have.
Yeah, I would have.
Also, I am viciously competitive.
I am very competitive. Yeah,
It's
I should have mentioned that. Yes.
it's pretty bad.
It's really bad. And you have a gamer boyfriend.
Yeah, Kenny and I, my boyfriend, he's just in the next room. There have been times where we played like Mario Party and I cried out of anger.
I will get so mean in Mario Party, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart.
It was as a kid, it was really really bad. Like I played sports, I had to stop. Like I took myself out of like team sports because I would get so angry at like people not pulling their weight. It would be bad. I would yell at people, and it was just, and I was like, it made me feel so ugly, so I had to stop.
No, I get
Um,
it.
and then and then I just, like I was like, I have to just, if I'm gonna be able to be mad at someone, I can only like, I want to be able to like blame it on myself and like be able to work on it and control it that way.
Sure.
Um, and the fact that like Gwen is the one that's pushing them so hard, I'm like, she just like me for real. And also, of course, we have matching trauma.
Yeah.
I'm, and so I feel the same way with people being like, oh well, like I'm like, no, like that's not. Why are you so? I get the instinct to be protective of that.
Yeah.
But you're putting them in a perpetual state of victimhood instead of being a survivor when
Yeah.
you paint them in that way. So I get that. I get very angry, and then
It's
I'm
like that same ideology when people are like called fat or overweight and people are like, no, they're not. Like, your heart is in the right place, but that's not the issue.
or when someone's like oh you're fat, and then they were like no they're beautiful.
No, they're beautiful.
I'm like
The
what?
spirit is there. That's not it.
I'm like, so do you think? I'm like, that they never called them ugly. They just said fat, and like
Yeah.
they said it in a negative way, but they're not saying like, don't perpetuate this idea of like fat
Yeah.
being ugly, bad. Um, but like, I also have to fight that urge to be um
It puts your dukes up whenever somebody does that.
when someone will say something like, like, oh, like they don't, like she doesn't deserve this, or like she blah blah blah. Or I saw a comment, I think I sent it to you, where someone was like Asriel deserves someone who can keep up with him, and I was just like, I'm like, this is extremely harmful to people. Like they're real, like she is not real, but people like who've gone through that
Yeah.
are, and I don't want to be that person who's just like, hey, you're talking to someone like that who's gone through.
Yeah.
But I fight it. Like I'm like, listen, like I'm not just speaking out of empathy. I'm speaking out of personal experience. And when you say these kind of things, it's harmful. And like I shouldn't have to explain why it's harmful. And yet here I am having to explain to you why it's harmful. Um, I'm trying to think about anything else. Everything that Gwen. Oh, I can't sing. I try. I love music. I can't sing. I play a lot of instruments.
Okay, together we can make a true Gwen. We
Yeah,
just have to merge.
you and me. It's you and me.
I'll handle I'll handle the singing.
I can't. I can sing along. For the
I'm
most
from Nashville. You are legally required to be able to sing if you're from Nashville. I
Yeah,
live in LA now, but
that sounds about right. Yeah, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. we we
right,
are
you're
required.
required to know how to zip up a puffer jacket with mittens on if you're from Ohio, right?
Yes, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then also wear like a swimsuit in the same day because we get like all 4 seasons in a. Where do you wait? Do you live in Nashville?
No, I used to live in Nashville, then I moved to Chicago, and then 2 years ago I moved to Los Angeles.
You're in LA. I have friends in LA.
I'm sorry, my condolences for them.
I also hate it. One
I
of my
do.
friends, Crucial. She's from India, and then she moved to LA to do acting.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
And yeah, and I can't. That sounds very stressful. Like
Gabriel's always telling me that he wants to move here from New York. I'm like, no, you don't.
there have been I've considered doing that sort of like pursuing like acting, things like that, and I don't think I could put myself through the stress at this
You,
point. Like, I didn't
yeah.
already have passion for it before. Like I don't know. I just don't. That just sounds so stressful and just like
There's just too much commentary on like not acting when you're a woman in acting too, like not to get off topic, but like it's always like, do you want us to soften you because you're playing an 18-year-old and you have four headlines? And I'm like, you hired me to play this role, knowing what I look like. I don't care what you do. Or like one guy actually told me he felt okay torturing me because I wasn't conventionally attractive. He was like, that way it's not like torture porn because you're not conventionally attractive. And I was like,
oh, see, I would never work because I just start. I would. You want what he's having? Literally, that Asriel in that scene. That would be
raining.
Like, I will put up with a lot of things, but oof. I've gotten, the older I've gotten, the more I've gotten into habits of, especially if like someone will say something like that, like if they said something, like degrading, I make them repeat it. I'm like, no, say it again.
Sorry, what was that?
Like, oh, I didn't hear. Oh, I thought that was what you said. Interesting. And then like I don't always yell at them because a lot of times it just does nothing, but I think about it a lot.
Do you want to know the weirdest thing about you that made me be like, oh my god, this is actually the Gwen in my head? It was when everybody was doing that Arabian Nights trend, and you were like,
I was like, why
are white people doing it? And you just looked at the camera and you went, it's like,
very expressive face. And mostly it's because I'm like, I have a really good poker face. I think that I do. And then like someone will start talking and I'm like oh, my face gives away everything. Like I'm very bad at it.
That clip was just such Gwen Verdara energy. I was like, oh my god, that facial, what is this? I was like, oh my god.
That's so funny. Think about that being Gwen, but actually that kind of feels right. I have a full list. I made a video of things that I think Nesta would love from our like universe, like world. And I already have a list that Gwen would like, and it's all just things that I like. And I'm like, maybe it's like she would love Animal Crossing. Her favorite album is Speak Now.
Everybody's like, Gwen would be on Book Talk. No, I'll tell you where Gwen is. Gwen is on Cozy Game TikTok.
Yeah.
Like,
Gwen
she doesn't like...
Gwen is busy, like, fixing her keyboard, like, to make it so...
She's busy putting, like, new aesthetic keyboard buttons on. Like, this one looks like a leaf.
I like this one. Yeah, she's busy on her island right now. Like, she's... Like, Gwen likes true crime podcasts, but not the ones that make jokes out of it. She likes the ones that are very serious and informative.
That are victim-focused, yeah.
Like, I'm like, this is the Gwen Bernard. I'm like, Gwen also does read SJM.
Yeah.
And she is a theorist. I know because I am.
She is a theorist. No, I feel like she is the Holy Trinity. She's a theorist, a fan artist, and a fanfic writer. She's all three.
She would be a fan artist.
She would teach herself.
Yes.
Because she would look at art and be like, that's not what no, that's the wrong shade of red. It's supposed to be chestnut.
That's so I paint a lot. Or like I paint everybody gifts, and I always that like every time I do it, I'm like, I'm in my favorite Archeron era.
Do you know? I just realized something. Do you know who Gwyneth Bernard's favorite actor would be, or actress rather? I think it would be Florence Pugh.
Yes, because Florence Pugh is God. I love Florence Pugh so much. I feel like I've never met someone who doesn't like Florence Pugh.
I have not.
Like, how can you not? She is.
Yeah. We have one last question, though, by the way.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So I would like to get your opinion on this as well, but you brush over the necklace drama in Trial of the Valkyrie. Do you think SJM will brush over it, and how do you think it will go down? I do brush over the necklace drama in Trial of the Valkyrie, mainly because I'm just tired of writing about it. I already had...
about this, so...
Oh, good. I feel like if she does address it, like, that's assuming a lot that readers have found the chapter. So if she does address it, I think I don't know how she will address it. I can't really predict that one. I think the best thing she can do is insert the necklace drama like we've seen it artfully inserted into 1,000 fics, where maybe we're getting the story from Gwen's POV. She has a necklace. People who have the bonus chapter know where it came from. People who don't. Maybe we get Azriel's POV and he recognizes it. I think that what the best thing to do would be to have Gwen learn the origins of the necklace, Azriel to be terrified that she's gonna hate him, and then Gwen to be like, tell me what the context was. Her to get the context and be like, okay, I guess I'm all right with it. Because I feel like Azriel doesn't have a clear line of communication with the women he's involved with, and to have Gwen be like, let's break this down before I make a bargain banishing you, run away from you, blah, blah. I feel like she's going to be an unbothered queen. And what's more is I feel like if this question was also intended to get Elaine's perspective, Elaine doesn't care. She gave it back. She doesn't care.
Thank you. Would you like me to go on my full rant about this?
I'm ready.
I think that the necklace is the idea that it's going to be this like love triangle drama. Like, she has my necklace. No, she gave it back. First of all, she gave it back. Second of all, I fully believe that Gwen knows what that necklace is from, because how many times in canon does Gwen talk about, oh, I know who that was because of their scents? That girl could smell who gave that necklace to her, if she even has it, if Clotho gave it to her, which we don't know. She doesn't. In my head, she doesn't wear it because Clotho gave it to her and she went, smells like like, why would she's, and then she's, or maybe she can smell like whatever lingering scent of arousal is on that.
She's like, she smells it. She smells Elaine. She smells Azriel. She goes, ooh, messy, and puts it in her drawer.
And then we never see her wearing it, because I'm like, I fully believe that she's just like, blah, 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 blah. Or maybe she like thinks about it and then like they'll get into an argument at some point and then she'll be like, you're too big of a coward to even like give me a necklace yourself. Like, I already knew it was you. And then he's like, well, did Clotho tell you? And she's like, no, I can smell it. And then she's just like, why can you smell things so strongly? She's like, I know everybody by their scents. Like,
okay, with that necklace though, it was on Elaine's the nape of her neck, which we know is like really scenty for some reason. And touching her neck, Azriel nearly in his pants. So I feel like it would be potent as
like, so at the very, and he also like keeps it on his person when he's like going up to the thing, and I'm like, okay, so he like, it smells like.
And you're right. And when he imagined her opening it, he imagined her taking it out of the box, which he kept in his pocket. So,
right,
shit,
like, and it's encased.
girl.
I'm telling you, I don't think it, and I don't think it's gonna be this whole like
No.
I'm like, why do people want to have like this drama between? I'm like, when has SGM ever done like two women fighting over a man?
Here we go. I'm so glad you asked. The only time we get anything remotely similar to this is Tower of Dawn. I am a huge Kale girly. I love Kale. I think he is such a complex, nuanced character. Love him. I was dreading Tower of Dawn, not because it was Kale's book, but because I hate love triangles.
Same.
And it is my favorite It's my favorite Throne of Glass book. It might be one of my favorite SJM books.
My favorite. It's my second favorite.
It's probably my third favorite.
Queen of Shadows is my favorite Throne of Glass book, but Tower of Dawn is like close second.
For me, it goes Hosab, Akasif, and then Tower of Dawn. And
my overall favorite. But also, like,
I get that. It's a strong one. It's also could be the end of the series. That's why I love it so much. But Tower of Dawn is how she does love triangles. And
it makes it, the other person already has someone, or they're like, they don't care. Like, also, and like, she tried to do it with Nezrin, and like people probably would have thought like Nezrin and Aelin would have beef. And because Aelin thinks, oh my god, she might hate me. And Nezrin's like, bro, I don't care. And then like, and Kael's worried about that. And then Kael's worried about how like he's like, I'm gonna break it to Nezra, and Nezra's gonna be. I'm like, she is with the hottest man in the SGM has ever written, probably. She's fine. Like,
Yeah.
that whole thing. I'm like, she's not gonna. Which is why I wonder if a Gwynreal book will also be like a prelude of an Elucien book.
I think it will be in the same vein that Akasif was kind of a prelude. Well, the banter back. Like people forget because a lot of people try to diminish the Gwynreal building. There's a lot of Gwynreal coding, a lot for a book about Nesta and Cassian. So I feel like one, we do have to see essentially an Elreal breakup. It's not like a real breakup, but it's like a mutual. We're done with this.
There has to be a conversation because like I won't like people. They'll be like, oh, people will always be like, well, he like it's never been resolved. I'm like, they never really even had conversations, like actual conversations. Because what did he ever ask her if she wanted him to Lucien? No, he just said that. Did she ever even tell him that she wanted to be with him and not Lucien? No,
Nope.
he doesn't. That and like, well, you don't know. They had a lot of conversations about the rose gardens. I believe
actually,
that.
no, I'm sorry. No, I don't believe that. We never saw it. I think that he actually took her there and then he left her and he went douches. I'm gonna take a douche, and then he left.
Yeah.
And that's probably what canonically happened because we didn't see it.
If we didn't see it, if I didn't hear the full conversation, it didn't happen.
It did not happen. We don't know.
Yeah, I hope that Elaine kind of. Elaine is a very complex character because we don't know enough about her, but like I'm passionate Elaine.
Can I tell you my theory about her that I just told Alex Marmsmella yesterday?
I just posted a whole theory about her the other day, but yes, I want to hear yours too.
Okay. So me and Alex were talking about Elucien like we always do. And we were talking about why Elaine has been keeping her distance. And there's a lot of theories. People are always like, oh, yeah, he died in a vision, blah, blah, blah. And that's why she's keeping away. This, I recognize, is probably not what happened. But I like it as a concept. I like the idea that Elaine saw a vision of her and Lucien, and she knows that, like, this is the guy, this is the person that's going to give her everything she's always wanted. He's end game. And Elaine's like, now hold on. I was pretty before, and now I'm super pretty. I have all the time in the world. I have autonomy. I have money. I want to go through my whole phase before I settle down with Lucien. And I want to fuck the hottest bat boy right now.
I know I'm not gonna stay here, so I could just.
I'm not gonna stay here. Let me have my whole phase. Nesta had her whole phase. Thera had her whole phase. I got engaged one time and he left me. I want to do my thing. So my thing is that she's being a little selfish, having a bit of a hoe phase, and that my Fox and Fawn thing that I wrote, where Lucien comes to her and is like, "I'm tired, and I'm gonna break the bond." Like I think that might happen. He might see that as something she wants, and then she's gonna be like, "No, no, no, I was just doing my whole phase," and he's like, I don't like it." Or alternatively, that conversation we never saw between Elaine and Lucien, where he comes with her to Valaris at the end of Aquar. I'm wondering if she sat him down, and the reason he's so calm about this, the reason he hasn't done anything other than he's Lucien and he's great, is she went, "I need you to give me some space and let me have a hoe phase. Because I'm young and you're like 500 something." And Lucien, being Lucien, was like, "That's fair. Okay." And he's doing his best, and that's why he hasn't acted insane. I recognize that this is very headcanon-y, but that's my favorite headcanon.
Most of my things about Elaine are headcanon-y. I have a few thoughts about like.
Let me hear him.
I've wondered if she tries to look in the future with Lucien and she can't see it because of like block with like because he's also like he's like he's son of Spellcleaver. He has all this magic. And I wonder if she can't see it, and so it's frustrating for her. And then the other side of it is like I wonder if she knows it's gonna be good, and not even just like it's more of like adding on to yours, that she's kind of like punishing herself that she doesn't deserve that yet. Because I fully believe that I don't know if you've seen this video that I made. I also there's a second part. I haven't made the second part yet, but that the cauldron gifted Elaine, like it gave her agency, as it said, wow, like everybody, like you were assigned a role the second you were born by your mother, and you were treated like a little princess of like you
Yeah.
were married for love and beauty, and everybody just like forced you to be a certain version of yourself. You're constantly mediating and placating around all these people who love to argue, and you like are it basically like the cauldron saw her and said, I'm going to basically give you a choose your own adventure story here. I'm going to give you this gift of sight so you can have, and then she has like in Twilight, all comes back to Twilight, it's you'll have like these subjective visions, and you can kind of like Doctor Strange, where you can see the way different things will plan out.
Yeah.
Which, and I think that she had to choose saving Nesta and Cassian over her dad, but she wouldn't say that to anybody. And I think that the reason, and that's like a whole thing, and like why she would be so angry at Nesta for being so like, like in such a bad state in the beginning of Akasif is like, I sacrificed our father so you could live. And then she even says like we save our father, and she's just like, that's not my fault. That's the only person's fault is thinking of Hybern. And I'm like, it's because she has to tell herself all that all the time.
That was really mature of her too, which I was super surprised by.
That's what I think. Well, that's what I think that like, because I mean, we don't even know if that's like the truth, but like, I fully believe it. And then I think that she knew that Feyre was going to have a problem with the wings, with the baby.
Oh.
She asks Amren, and people love to like talk about like, oh, she wants to come back to be a human. I think she was asking Amren about, oh, once you were in this body, once you were made, you couldn't change. And she was like pushing about it because Elaine doesn't push very often. It because she knew that she had a lot of questions about like, okay, so Feyre's like, going to be in trouble with this. And then she had a vision where Nesta was going to fix it with her powers. And so she volunteers to do scrying because she knows that Nesta will go in her stead, because she's aware of like that Nesta will do anything to defend her, to reacquaint Nesta with her own powers again, stop being so afraid of them, because she was going to need it. I'm telling you, this is why I'm like, Elaine is just, that girl is just like pulling strings. And I think that when people find out, they're going to be angry, and they're going to accuse her perhaps of being like, oh, like you can't just, you're making all these decisions for everyone else. And she's just like, I've done this my whole life. I've had to see the way things would play out. And
also, you're welcome.
also you're welcome. Like she's like, okay, well, like Nesta's going to need, and also Elaine starts, we never really get any mention of like Elaine being religious by any means. And she starts, and obviously, like, desperate people find faith. When Feyre's like in bad shape, she like kneels down and starts praying to the mother.
Yeah.
And like, is she summoned? Is she asking the mother to show up to do what she needs to do with Nesta? And also, like, because she knew that Nesta's power would save Feyre and Rhys and Nyx. And what gets me about that whole scene is that now she has the knowledge because she has the power. And so I think Elaine has known the whole time that she had the power to do that.
That's weird.
That's my take on Elaine.
That's a great take.
Like silent sacrifices, and knows, and like she is acting the way that she acts because she needs to in order to make sure things go a certain way.
Oh fuck.
And I think maybe she thought that things were going to go a certain way with Azriel, and was very confused as to why she was pulled out, because Rhys is Daemati, she can't see him specifically in her visions, or like something like that, like something with like Rhys and his wards or whatever. She didn't think he was going to interrupt them.
You know what's really the thing about her visions? I feel like we see her with such crippling depression in ACOWAR because she can see so much, and she's like, what's the point in doing anything? The future's already decided. And then we see her in Akasif, and Nesta is like bitter about how fucking happy she seems. And I feel like after the thing with Hybern, something in Elaine clicked where she was like, oh, no, the future isn't always like this. I can dick around with it, with this foresight. And that's why we saw this huge shift, because some people are upset that between ACOWAR and Akasif, Elaine went from this withered thing to something beautiful and healthy and awesome. And I'm like, no, she like, I think what was fixed. I cannot wait to get into Elaine's head is the bottom line.
But she like only like the main cast that we haven't like gotten into her head, because we've even
Yeah,
gotten to Elucien's head before. Like we've
that's
never
because,
gotten in.
well, we kind of went into Lucian's a little bit because
No,
Feyre
I'm
like is
saying
oh yeah, yeah.
we've never had her. Where does
Yeah,
that go wrong? I think
that's
it's
because
dumb.
she's the finale.
I also believe that I'm like a believer that her and Lucian will be High King and Queen.
Why would you not end on an
Both,
Archeron sister?
yes. I don't know. I could see the novella being flashbacks of like Lucian's adventures and also like stuff with Helion and Lady of Autumn and like things like that. Maybe. I don't know. I personally think that Helion's gonna kick the bucket. Because SGM
That
likes
all
that.
depends. That all depends on if him and LOA get together.
Yes, that's true.
If they get together, he's not going to die. She will not kill off people who have partners. Baxian is going to die.
Oh, I was talking about Helion. Oh, you're talking about Lady of Autumn? Because I said like I don't think Lucian is gonna. I'm talking about Helion specifically because she
No,
likes.
I'm saying that I think you're
Oh yeah.
right about Helion based on her pattern as a writer, because right now he's not with his person. If he
Right.
gets with his person, then she won't do it. If they have somebody, she won't kill them. But
Did that with Hosab,
who?
Danica, and Baxium.
Well, we didn't know that Baxian existed.
Figured that you meant like if we see it. Well, I think that
They
that
have to
they.
actively be together to be
I think
safe.
that Lady of Autumn rejected their mating bond.
Helions?
Yes, and that's why he's still like fixated because remember they said like it lasts forever for the man, but it doesn't for the women. Like it's easier for them to. And I think that she rejected him because she wanted to keep her kids safe
Do you
from
know
Van.
that Nox Luna, the store, is writing a Lady of Autumn and Helion fic?
I need it. I love them so much. They
I'm
are
very excited to read it.
because he says in Aquawar, he's like, I tore the beast apart with my bare hands, and then like Moore's like, why? And then he just like gives her a knowing look of like, that's I know why. Because I think that she rejected the mating bond eventually. I think that like they were mates and she was like, I have kids and like this would cause like I think that she was just so worried that something would happen to her kids because she wouldn't be able to have the claim on them. They would go to
I
Harry.
I think that's 1000% probably what, like, I don't elaborate on it in Rise the Valkyrie, but you meet her in Rise the Valkyrie. You get some hints about what was done. Helion does show up. It's really funny. I won't spoil too much, but Helion is basically like, what's going on over in Autumn? What's it like over there? And they're like, I don't, Eris is doing
He's like,
okay. And he's
I
like,
don't
what
know.
about that? He what?
I've never been there before. I don't know. How's that? I've never
That's
met her.
pretty much what happens. He's like, how's Baron's wife or whoever the hell that, what is her name? I don't even know it.
You don't
What
you
is
don't
it?
you don't you can get her name in canon, and that makes me so mad. But I
I
fully
gave
believe
her a name.
I oh thank God. What did you give her?
Everybody in Autumn's name seems to be French most of the time. So I chose the French name that means sun, which is Soleil.
I love that. I love that
Yeah,
so
it's really funny. Asriel's like, Gwen's like, oh, I was sorry, I'm late. I was talking to Soleil, and he's like, who? And she's like, that's the Lady of Autumn's name. And he's like, I've been trying to get her name for like centuries. How did you get it in one night?
like
And
asked.
she was like, I don't know. She sat down and started talking to me. I forgot that I said that I would do a romantic teaser. I'm trying to find it.
While you do that, I could. Oh,
No,
you
you
want
go. No, you go.
I
I'm gonna keep looking.
that we like they are the rejected mating story that we're going to hear about, and they're also because they're a rejected mating story. I don't think SJM will give a rejected mating story's like offspring a rejected mating bond.
I
I,
like that.
and then I also think that I also am kind of I really want Emery and Moore to have a mating bond, but I also feel like
Memory.
I I love the there's also the fact that her colors were like purple, green, and gold. I was like Mardi Gras, and then I was like, no, the gold is for more, and the green is probably the color for siphons that she'll have. Um,
I'm
I
gonna cry.
I worry that Eric and Moore are a rejected mating bond situation because he can always smell her on Cassian, and he's like, I smell more, and Cassian's like, how can he smell her? Like she literally like went out so far away, like I wasn't even around her for that long, and then like Eris can smell her.
I would not be
But so like the
surprised.
moral of my story is not a rejected mating bond story in the way people.
Yeah, I don't think that Elucien is gonna. I think they're a red herring for a broken mating bond. I think that that might be the central theme at the core of their story is like that is an option. I would love a reluctant fated mates thing.
Yes, like people were like, she's talked about it too much for it to be like not like for a reluctant like or like a broken mate, a rejected mating bond story to not happen. I'm like, bro, it's already happened with
It's
Helion and
already
Elaine.
happened.
It's already happened, and then because also it would explain how Lucian is definitely extremely powerful because Elaine is also extremely powerful. Like Lucian's not just the son of a High Lord; he's probably the son of like mates, a mating bond.
Oh,
They,
1000%.
like logistically, obviously, like Reese says that they tend to make like more powerful offspring, so it makes sense to me. Like Tamlin's parents were mates. I wonder if like the uncertainty that takes place within the Autumn Court like ranks is because those children are not all um like the product of mating bonds, so that maybe they're not as powerful. Maybe Eris is not as powerful.
That's like part of a thing um in the fic is in Rise of the Valkyrie is that the insecurity, like, well, the instability of the Autumn Court. And I did a lot of research, like canon research on it, and I found a detail that we learn at one point that I think either Lucian or Eris tells us that Baron has started like heavily taxing his farmers, and people are like, "That's a shitty idea. That's your food." And there's a lot of just unrest in that court.
Yeah, Lucian talks about it because he's like they'll sell me out immediately. They like one because of Jasminda, two because of like he doesn't pay them well,
Yep.
and they will like they need money. I saw someone say that Jasminda was his mate, and they're like, "Well, he had a mate," and I'm like, "No, no, no. First of
No.
all, Tamlin is telling that story when it happens, and Tamlin says that Lucian said he had expected the bond to snap at any point, and he was trying to save her life, because I think that he thought she was his mate, and because it hurt that badly. But she
No,
really did.
that's legitimately it. That's it.
Like
I talked
that's
to, what if Tamlin dies with no heir and his High Lord power goes to Elaine? That's her link to Supreme Court. That'd be neat, but I don't know
that'd be
how it
cool,
would
but
go
I
to
don't know.
her.
I saw someone. Oh no, I had this headcanon that like because Tamlin's in beast mode permanently, they and like the land is suffering. This wouldn't happen, but this is my just me writing fanfic that like Lucian is like they Elaine finally is like, I'm leaving and like I'm gonna go travel and like I guess I'll go with Lucian, and then like Lucian gets word that like the magic of the spring court is in like an unstable whatever, and he's like, I gotta perform the great rite again, and then the magic chooses Elaine, and then the two of them have a moment like that, and then maybe that would make it so she could inherit the spring court, but
I
it,
I think I think that Marine BJL is right. I think Reese does say that because I my headcanon is that um, Tamlin passes away with unalives without an heir. And listen, let's be real. The person who's closest to Tamlin, even in the current state of the world, is Lucian. I think that he would, if he's going to leave his court to anybody, the only option he has is Lucian.
that would make
I wouldn't be. What?
that would make people. Can you imagine how mad people would be because they'd be like, but the flowers on her dresser are not for Lucian, even though he lived in the spring court for like centuries because he loves the spring court and he loves his bestie Tamlin.
Yeah.
like, no, that's the flowers are for because she's gonna marry Tamlin.
No, baby. It might be because Marine, like Marine says, what if like her being Lucian's mate and the Spring Court being Lucian's brings the power to Elaine? I could see that. I would honestly, I would like that. I think she's already pretty powerful though with seer powers. Um,
Love to see it actually go to a woman in the because I don't think the Cauldron is sexist because the Cauldron loves the Archeron sisters.
it does.
Or maybe not. Maybe it doesn't love Nesta as much, but it liked her enough to let her be hive. And I think
It liked her enough to make a deal with her.
yes, I also think that the Cauldron kind of let Nesta take from it.
I think the Cauldron has a respect for Nesta.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was like she was getting dunked, and the Cauldron saw her point that finger, and it was like, bad bitch, hell yeah.
Fight it. Take what you want, girl.
And the Cauldron was Michaela, and was like, I like a bitch.
It was Gwen in that moment. Like, wait a minute. Like,
Hmm.
I like a scary girl. It was like, you know what? I'm gonna let you have Cassian.
Yeah.
I'm you know what, take whatever you want, but can you give that back at some point? That is a loan. The power of death is a loan. Like
I love that. I love the theory that Elaine would get that power. That's fun. I would like to see how that got tackled. Right now, Tamlin's on the chopping block.
I feel so I kind of feel like if she would have she would have done it already. But I also am like, would she lose
I
that much
agree.
credibility in spring? Like maybe whoever she has set up to take his place, that's not ready for the story yet.
Maybe. I could see Briar being there. I think that, yeah.
It's a complete foil of
It's so random.
story with Feyre. It would be though, like him with her. If he fell in love, he like against his like hope, like fell in love with her versus like him being forced to fall in love with a human woman, and
Yeah.
also like him being like, you know what, I'm done with this.
I think
And
the
like,
only reason she hasn't killed him yet is because either she has a love story with Briar in mind, or she is like, I need something to get me out of something to drive, and she's going to use him in his beast mode to drive the plot forward.
I have wondered if it's going to happen in a certain next book that's being published.
Kristen said, you think, yeah.
Maybe.
I don't think so. I don't think anything detrimental to ACOTAR will happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that just doesn't make sense marketing wise.
Might do something in that, maybe not like die, but like he might do something in that she needs him to do, and then she'll end up in another book.
Did you read my new fic, I Will Find You?
I haven't
If
yet.
not, okay. There's a theory in it that I think that might actually be true, where I think that anything detrimental for the ACOTAR characters that occurs in that series might get undone by the harp. But but it would have to be done. So here's the thing about the harp, right? It goes back in time. It's time. If it goes back in time, it doesn't seem to affect other realms. It would say, basically, I'm looking at this not from like a doesn't make sense for canon, but from I'm an author, I cannot count on everybody to read 3 series. How do I make it so that if these ACOTAR people don't go to Crescent City series, they're going to be caught up for the next book? Yeah. My magical time travel device.
Yes.
Gwen's going to be really important to Crescent City 3, 1000%.
She can speak the old language. Source, she sings music in the old language all the time.
That fic was horrible and amazing at the same time. Thank you very much.
I fully believe that. I mean, Gwen probably interprets the old language all the time, but she also can speak it enough that she sings music in the old language.
She sings it.
So she knows what it means. So like
that's in my fic, actually, Michaela. It's so funny you say that. Asriel, like, it's really funny because it picks up like right where CC3 leaves off, and Asriel shows up, and it was like, Reese needs somebody who knows about crossworlds and speaks the old language, and that's you. And Gwen's like, you volunteered me for that. And he's like, yeah, you're the first person who came to mind.
I've thought that like Meryl, I feel like Meryl will definitely be. I get Gwen on a Pegasus in Crescent City 3.
You need to read I Will Find You.
On a Pegasus yesterday. Also,
a Pegasus with beer in I Will Find You. It's great.
Yes, I love I just love everything with her. You know, I love my Thunderbird theory with her. I've wondered if Gwen, because Thunderbirds, we know that they can wield like first light and stuff, and
Yeah.
the witches in Crescent City, they use first light to heal people. I wonder if
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be the one to heal Emery's wings, or like because I feel like we didn't have Emery's wings healed at that point, not just because of like an anti-ableism like plot device of like let her choose when she wants to, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
if
Like
she,
a lead.
um but like I mean like, with Emery, like it's she like said she loved flying, so I could see, or maybe they'll just put her on a Pegasus, I don't know, but because I don't like to, I love the way that Tower of Dawn handled like ableism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
um I've wondered if like Gwen can, or like maybe even Nesta, like one of them will be the one to heal her.
I think that would be interesting. I really hope that if we get an Emery wing healing thing, we get memory in there.
uh
I make them mates any chance I get.
I the gold in her bracelet, I'm like, that's more, like more is so gold.
There's a teaser for it, so I don't feel like this is a spoiler, but in the I Will Find You fic, Reese like accidentally blurts that Gwen is Asriel's mate because he's talking to Cassian Morgan and Asriel about the Valkyrie going into battle in CC3.
Yes,
And
yes, yes, I
he's
saw that preview, I was like,
before that scene, Morgan is so gung ho, like, no, no, no. She goes, Reese got to go, oh, my mate doesn't have to fight Hybern. She doesn't know. She's too inexperienced. Well, I get to pull that shit with Emery, and I'm going to do it. Um, she's just protective mate Emery, and protective mate Morgan. And Emery's like, I'm the Valkyrie general. And she's like, yeah, you are. That's not happening.
she's like, I
It's so
love,
cute.
don't do this to me.
I love you so much. Let me bring you down to earth for a minute. There's no way.
There's no way you're getting tickets to that concert. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. That it's protective mate Morgan was my fave.
I think that the Valkyries, okay, my like realistically, like how much can actually happen in this plot? I have this hope that the Valkyries are going to be the ones to rescue Hunt, because
Oh,
Thor is, the Valkyries serve Thor, and like that's a whole, or like Odin, Thor, you know, that whole succession in like
yeah.
Norse mythology. And I'm like, what if they are the ones to rescue him because they are the Valkyrie? And also they wouldn't show up on like their sense who they are is completely unknown to the Asteri, and they're like a surveillance state. So like they would not know who these people are.
I didn't think about that.
They'll be like, hey Bryce, we'll get your man for you. We'll get it. We'll bring him back, and then we'll have a be writing fan fiction, and then we'll have Peter Millark moment of him not knowing, of him not remembering anything, and then being like, I don't know who you are, and then Bryce being like, ah! And then like,
I This is the one area we're gonna disagree. I think
I
that
no
that was
no
a metaphor for pain.
I also think that like that's pretty likely. I think that like doing the memories thing would be. I'm writing fan fiction, and
Oh, thank God. Okay. I was like,
I don't know if they'll actually do that.
one book.
It's too, yeah, it's too confusing too. Like it's also like an unnecessary obstacle. Like the obstacle's already been placed. They're in
Yeah.
different worlds. They're in literal different
Let
worlds.
me tell you KB's theory, though, on how they're gonna get Hunt back.
I want to hear it.
KB thinks that Hunt is gonna show up in Prithian, or that they're gonna reunite, and this is why. Because I was like, hold on a minute, hold up a minute, and KB was like, remember, Starfall is when lost souls cross worlds, and in the timeline of Bryce getting to Prithian, they're a few months out from Starfall, and Sarah said on her live that she's going to be in Prithian for a few months.
I have thought about. I have like full body chills. I have thought about
I know.
that the context of
Them
like
reuniting.
I keep saying yes, but also the context of Starfall existing, because I think Starfall is Second Light. Remember,
Oh,
like the
for sure. It definitely is.
Okay, thank you, because I start talking about this and people were like, I don't know what second.
No, it is. It is.
But if Thunderbirds are able to wield like all energy, they could literally have an army of souls up against like an enemy force during Starfall.
Oh shit. See, Starfall's gonna come in somehow.
Oh, it's gonna be also like, okay, if like when Gwen is revealed as a Thunderbird, it'll make sense that she wasn't at the last Starfall. She was like underground still
Oh
during Star.
yeah.
Doesn't like or not underground. I don't know why.
She's well, I mean, it's in a mountain.
She's chilling, not she's not surfaced for that. And I'm like, I wonder if that's intentional for her to not be, because like she could have just like had her there and like been like done nothing with it. And I'm like, what if the reason she's not there is because her like being at Starfall is going to be like a pivotal thing, or like it's the same thing with like why mention a mating ceremony if you're not going to show it really because
Yeah.
you're going to show it another time.
I think for this goes back to like Gwen helping. I know a lot of people are like, well, it would be Meryl. She's the head one. Keep in mind that of Gwen and Meryl, Gwen is the one who's left the library, who is
Yeah.
more comfortable leaving. I feel like the first step they're gonna go to Meryl and be like, come, and Meryl, and we're gonna see a vulnerable moment from Meryl where she's like, no, I'm staying here, or you can bring Bryce here. And they're going to be like, I can't bring Bryce here. That's kind of a threat to everybody else. We don't know her. And then Gwen is going to like pipe up and be like, I can go. And Meryl is going to be like, yeah, she can go.
That she's like, the fact that I just love Gwen so much. She will
Some
definitely.
things are more important than fear.
Yes, I was just gonna say that, and then I was like, I don't even need to say it. But then you said it, and then she has a moment where she like says to like Meryl like looks stressed, and maybe Meryl doesn't want to say no,
Yeah.
and then Gwen sees it, and then like she like looks at Meryl, and like or Meryl tries to like thank her or something later, and then like Gwen's just like, there's no like it's ice like we all deal with our like trauma differently, and there's
I would love that. I would love a protective Asriel moment.
Yes.
Where he's like, you don't need to do that. And she's like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
And they're leaving, and he's like, oh, you didn't have to do that for her. She didn't deserve that. And Gwen can again teach him something about mercy and kindness and be like, it doesn't matter like what she deserves. It's like the right thing to do.
Deserves. You love the word deserves, Asriel.
You love that word. You love that
word.
word.
Love that topic. Love that idea.
Okay, I have our teaser. I think this was romantic. That's what was voted for. Angst lost yet again.
I mean, good, because I can't deal with that. I mean, I also love angst, so.
Okay. Uh, She took a mind-stilling breath, then released it, trying to keep her composure. Just that the feeling is mutual. The same way you can't lose me. Gwen shook her head. I can't lose you. The shadows on Asriel's shoulders wriggled down his arms, coming to wind around Gwen's wrists like an affectionate pet. Bradara, you're not going to lose me. What if Baron tries to? Asriel lowered his voice. Baron Vansera is an old fool, too blinded by his lust for power and securities to see that his ruin is right under his nose. When Gwen only blinked, her husband's expression softened. Ask me how many people have tried to... Never mind, I'll stop there. I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah. Nothing's more...
The shadows moving like down like, and then connecting their arms. I'm like, oh, like the mating ribbon.
Yeah!
Like, visual media. I was like, the mating ribbon?
Like a little black mating ribbon. Yeah.
That has to be like some imagine in their book like in canon like that is a thing like that like like that like the hands being bound by the shadows, and then it's like, oh my god, it reminded them of the hands being bound by the shadows whenever they end up having.
I've written like post mating ceremony smut, and my favorite thing I've written for that is Gwen being like, nobody thought about the logistics of this.
Yes, I that's so funny that you said that, because I was like, man, that's actually a logistical nightmare if you really think about it. The second I read that, the first
this one scene I wrote, she's wearing something very intricate, and I won't. It's a fic that's a work in progress. It'll come out, but it's like really difficult to get off. And she's like, "What the fuck? We're not gonna be able to do this." And he's just like, "No, no, 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 shadow magic," and he just like takes her clothes off.
Like,
it's so funny. She's like, we can't consummate. There are too many buckles. It's so funny.
That's so funny that like that's like the thought process of like Gwen being like, this is a logistical nightmare, because I literally was like, that logistically would be horrible. Like, are they supposed to like eat dinner? Like, are they supposed to just like go off right after the ceremony? Like, how does this work in like real context of the mating ceremony? I'm like, because you invented it at the end of Akasif for some reason. We know the reason.
Yeah.
Like, Sarah.
I've written 2 mating ceremonies. I always have them just yeet out as soon as their hands are bound.
Good, as you should, because that's the only way that's based off of the way that the mating bond works. That makes sense. Like,
It's ravenous.
I forgot to say this. I loved your use. I wanted to say I loved your use of Hosier in like titles and stuff, because I also love Hosier. And if Gwyn were to have fire powers in canon, or this could also be an Azris song, because to me it was like this is like a Rowaylan song, but it would be even better if like as an Azris, or like Gwyn if she had fire powers.
What is it?
Would that I, because the lyrics are, with each love that I could lose, I was never the same. Watch it still live in roofs, be consumed by the flame. I was fixed on your hand of gold, layin' waste to my lovin' long ago. Literally, like, the power of her fire was like his hand laying waste of her lovin', aka her fire. Thank you.
I'm looking at the lyric right now and I'm like, I'm dead.
Like, and it's all like literally.
I will worship the flame long as amber of ember glows. All the wood that I loved is long ago. Oh, fuck me.
The lyrics of that song are insane. Like, literally insane. Like, the sound of the saw must be known by the tree, must be felt for the fight. Like, it's.
Am I about to change the fucking last song in this fic because of you?
I would die. I love that song so much.
Right now, the last song is Golden Hour by Jake, and I might change it.
I thought you were going to say Golden Hour by Casey Musgraves, and I was like, I love that song, but I don't know that other song.
I love Casey Musgraves, but no, it does not. It would not fit. I might have to change it. Did I not use Would That I in...
You did. I think you did.
Oh, if I already used it. I was about to say, how did I miss that in my fire theme fic?
Maybe you did.
That has so many Hosier songs.
I
can check. I have the Spotify playlist. Which, like, I shouldn't say, but, like, the Rise of the Valkyrie play, if you really want to see chapter by chapter, it is up. I wouldn't do it. You might worry yourself. Okay, here it is. Would that... No, dude, I don't think I did. Oh, fuck. It might have to be in there. Yeah, I only use, like, Real People Do, and then Cherry Wine.
As you should. Those are both iconic songs.
Oh, like Real People Do is so Gwen Real.
It is Gwen Real. I used to dance, and like that was one of my favorite songs to dance to.
What kind of dance did you do?
I did competitive dance. I did it for 15 years. Well, I didn't do competitive dance for 15 years. I did competitive dance for like 4 or 5. But I started ballet when I was 3. So.
Oh my god, I did ballet when I was 3.
I also taught 3-year-olds ballet. My favorite. I love teaching 3-year-olds ballet.
So I was such a bad dancer. I'm so envious of you.
It was one of the things I had to work really hard on.
Mm-hmm.
And my senior year, like my whole goal, because I was obsessed with Barbie Swan Lake as a child, I didn't say this to other people, but I was obsessed with being in Swan Lake. And my senior year, I got to be Odette in Swan Lake. Like,
I know. Don't you need to explain to me?
I was like, when I took French class, my name was Odette. Like in my freshman year of high school, I was like, I need to manifest being Odette.
You gotta.
And they were all like, you should be the Black Swan. Like, she's a scary one. And I was like, I am going for Odette. She is the star. I'm a star. I'm a star.
I'm a star. I love that.
We do evil so well, and I'm like, I don't want to do evil. I want to be Odette. I want to be soft and pretty. Let me be a soft and pretty dying swan.
No, Odette is the star. Like, Black Swan is fun. Odette is better.
I'm like, listen, Black Swan's only fun because of the movie. Like,
Black
Swan, by definition, is in fact the understudy role of Odette, and I am no understudy. I actually had to be an understudy once, and I was very furious because I knew the dance better than the girl who was Aurora, and I was like,
how are we so the same person?
like
I've gotten understudy starring role before, and everyone's like, "Wow," and I'm like, "It's not the starring role, and I'm
you
better."
nothing without the starring role of like I'm like oh it's literally you were so close but we couldn't give it to you.
I hate that.
What's worse is when you know that you like when the person isn't doing it as well as you know you're doing it.
No, this happened to me when I was a cheerleader. Um, these two, like, the girl was my best friend, but she got captain over me, which made no sense. I taught everyone everything. I was like the leader. And I roomed with our coach during competition because I have epilepsy and she wanted to keep an eye on me. Understandable. It sucks. And we're getting into bed, and honestly, low key, I hung out with the adults all the time. I just enjoyed it more. And she tells me, she was like, Izzy, truthfully, I was gonna give it to you, but I felt like Lauren needed a confidence boost, you know?
That's literally people. That's exactly like I've had that explanation. I'm like, well, you kind of get everything, so like they needed like she needed that.
She was like, you've been in movies, Izzy, what has she gotten? And I was like, Lauren doesn't care.
I
I
think
never told her.
yeah,
To this day, Lauren Conway, if you watch this, darling, I'm so sorry you had to find out this way.
I'm so sorry you had to find out like this.
She's one of those people that like I was friends with in elementary school and then middle school, and then we went our separate ways. And now, like 15 years later, we both have grown out of like all of the we both grew up in Tennessee, and we will message you. Have you seen the people who haven't grown out of that bullshit?
Yep.
And we used to talk about Harry Potter in code at school because we went to a Fundy school and we both read Harry Potter, and we'd be like, "Did you read Harriet's new book?" um,
That's
Intense.
cool. We could talk about sometime the fun of I was in a cult for a couple of years. It was like a whole experience. Yeah, I didn't know it was a cult until I was like
Why do I know so many people who are in cults?
it was like a random thing. It was like a whole thing. We could talk about that sometime.
We should. Oh, this is not our last live. I should be going to bed, but this is not our last live.
Oh
By
yeah.
far.
Yes.
Um, Thank you so much for doing this and so last minute too.
It wasn't even last minute. I was so excited. You don't understand. I was literally waiting. I was like, I kept like looking for it. I was like, is it no, it's not Thursday yet. Like, oh my gosh, it's so like every day's getting closer. I'm just so excited.
I was like, I'm probably annoying her, tagging her so much in all these
No,
demos and
no,
stuff.
it was like, I'm a star. Literally, I
I'm
was like,
a star.
I felt so famous. I was like, I am famous, and I think people from my real life thought that they were like, oh my god, this is like a really like this is like a huge. I think that they thought you were the author of Akatar, and and I was like, this is a big deal. Like she is fan fiction to me.
Oh, if I was
But
the author of Avatar, I'd be 10,000 times gayer. um, Put me in charge. Um, but yeah, we'll definitely need to go live again soon. I want to do a thing. I want to do a Quinlar live with KB.
oh, I
If
can
you're,
someone who was converted from someone like like wasn't into it, and then I was like, they are mates, and everything is there. I think I can offer that perspective.
what's it's not only about like loving Quinlar. It's
It's
about
that they
getting
love.
over the fact that yes, it's about Adis is not in game. Quinn, it's over. It's
It's
over.
her ancestor. Like it's like
We don't have a skeptic. We don't have somebody who was a skeptic about it yet. So
yeah,
it would be great to have you.
yeah.
I'll talk to
But
KB.
because I'm like, listen, I get like I never felt the electricity as it were, and but when I reread it, I'm like, oh my god, the first time that he sees her, he's the only one that's able to like snap her out of it. Oh my gosh, like he freaks out. Like I'm like
Yeah.
they were mates from moment one. Like
The moment I shipped them was the end of first book.
yeah, same.
Um,
I was like, this is Hunt. Can you call my mom? Also, like I was like, yup.
when he goes to her door and he's like, "What can I get you?" And she's like, "Nothing." And then she opens it. She's like, "Cheeseburger, cheese fries, and milkshake." And then he goes and gets it all. I was like, "Oh, okay. So he's husband material," and we didn't know.
Like he the most like the best because he's the most emotionally healthy out of all of the SJM men, and that's
Yeah.
why. people don't necessarily, and that's why I wasn't as into him, because he's not damaged, and I live damaged, like damaged in a way that's like red flags. He's the biggest green flag of any man that you've ever like read about, for sure.
Bryce gets mad at him for wanting to get out of slavery, and he goes, "This is a emotional response," and I get that. And
the fact, one of my favorite things, we could talk about this obviously in the Quinlan live, but my favorite thing is that his integrity is so strong that he knows that like he's free, and like, yes, of course he balks the idea of joining a rebellion, but he knows that the like freedom is nothing if he doesn't do anything with it. Like if he doesn't live the way that he needs to defend things, that he's like, I'm literally right back where he's like, I'm not right back where I started, but like where I started, like I had, my heart was in the right place, and I still feel this way. So like
he's literally the only one who acts his age. All these 500-year-old men act like 17-year-olds. They get so pissy, and Hunt's like, I'm so tired.
He's Ezreal. So I'm like, I always say that like red is my favorite color with fictional men, because like the red flags, like that's why that's why I wasn't into Hunt. But like if I find out my friend is dating Hunt Athlar, I'm like, yes. Like in real life, if Hunt Athlar existed,
yeah,
yes. I mean, he reminds me more of like Hunt Athlar in that respect, of just like, all right, seems like this is an emotional response.
Your partner, your long-term partner, should remind you of it. Like of all the SJM characters, they should remind you of Hunt.
Yes, like out of everyone, like the best one for them to be is definitely. I don't want to say that, but
Hunt's the best guy.
Oh, he's boring. I'm like, he just supports her.
No, he's not boring. He just is he's just a partner who recognizes that your partner, a soulmate doesn't mean that they're perfect. It means that they're perfect for you. And that which I love that about him.
I love they just them. They grow together, and they don't just they grow together, like, and not in like a, I think it's like because all of the men that we see, like there's an emotional gap between women are almost like more emotionally like intelligent, and then there's the age gap. So the man is like way older, and he's like, oh, I'm like, it's like he has the power that she is like going to almost. Sometimes.
Yeah, the imbalance. Yeah.
Like, whereas like even like with Aelin, like Rowan is teaching her, like they're in that, and then like you can have it in like Gwynriel, you have it in Nessie, and you have it in all these things, even if they have like a lot of power like magically. But like with Bryce and Hunt, it was literally the Spider-Man meme of like, like Hunt is very aware of his issues, and he's just like
he checks his biases so much in that book. Like, how often do we get men admitting their mistakes? like
he's not even, he's like, yeah, that was my bad. Like, no ego about it. Like, it's because he's good. That's why people find him boring. Because he's good. Like,
he's a good boy.
He's like, pat him on the head. Like, thank you.
Yeah, and he's been waiting to get husbanded up for ages.
He has been waiting for that, and he is the guy that like Bryce and her girls will go out on a night out, and he has mozzarella sticks waiting for them. I said that.
Okay.
Literally, Kenny texted me earlier and was like, "I got you mozzarella sticks because I love you," and I was like,
"Mozzarella sticks are my favorite."
Sheets mozzarella sticks are my god tier mozzarella
sticks.
If
you ever come to LA, we're getting mozzarella sticks, and you can hang out with me and Alex, and we'll watch movie. It'll be great.
It'll be perfect.
Because of what you've said, I'm gonna give you an additional teaser, because this is my favorite thing from Rise of the Valkyrie, and it's just us, so I'm gonna do it. Hold on, let me find it. But it's all about the husband. I think one thing that particularly my demographic that I appeal to likes is husband material.
Yes, I'm a big fan of that. I love all of your like headcanons of like Asriel as like a father Asriel when like
domestic Asriel.
Yeah.
So Gwyn has a dress in this fic that gets damaged, and Asriel gets to work sewing it.
Shut up.
And It's been a while since I've worked on a dress, though, murmured Azrael, examining the threading on her sleeve closely. I apologize for any shoddy craftsmanship. The arms are going to be shorter than you're comfortable with, but at least you won't see any damaged fabric. It's kind of attractive, Gwen mused. You sewing? Her husband's eyes flicked up from his handiwork, the edge of his lips twitching. Noted, Gwyneth Bredara has a domestic kink. Her eyes widened at that. What in the mother's name is a domestic kink? Exactly what it sounds like. Azrael chuckled and resumed his sewing. It's not uncommon for warriors' partners to be slightly aroused at the sight of them doing something uncharacteristically domestic, sewing, cooking, what have you. He shook his head and moved to the next sleeve. I've had a handful of casual partners over the centuries, and I'll say you're the first to admit it. Should I be embarrassed? Gwen asked, rolling her eyes. Not at all. In fact, I wouldn't mind eventually embracing this kink to its fullest. Brows furrowing, Gwen pushed herself to sit up on the edge of the bed. In what way? His bronze skin darkened with a blush, and he cleared his throat. Just in a way that I wouldn't mind if eventually our life became a little boring, he gave a shrug. No more wars or political scheming or spy work, just a simple life. His eyes quickly flitted up to her, slightly alarmed. When you're ready, that is. I'd be content to be your dutiful house husband while you enjoy centuries upon centuries of adventure.
Penny
And
has
it's
himself as a house husband so many times. We call him a house husband.
I
When is working.
Azrael is tired. I'm telling you. He just wants to be a house husband.
Athalar was meant to be a house husband.
Hunt's going to be a house husband. That's no doubt. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, sir.
Yeah, this is ma'am. They're both my cats are girls. Say hi.
I recognize that non-binary is a thing. Until cats can tell us that they're non-binary, I will say ma'am or sir to all cats.
Same. Same.
No, but yeah, that's your extra teaser because I am obsessed with this headcanon that I have now that Azrael's or Reese's mom taught Azrael to sew to get him better at looking at his hands. And because he wasn't exactly, and also Cassian and Azrael were too strong. They were like chopping wood, but Azrael was skinny and weak. He couldn't do the things that they did, and he wanted to be helpful.
Fine motor skills, like, and then he became so passionate about dagger handling because it's all about like the fine motor skills. Shut up.
Yes. I love it. He's just sitting there cross-legged on the floor with like 3 different sized needles in his mouth, and he's like sewing this dress, and he's like, no, no, and Gwen is just like,
I would feel the same way. I'm pretty sure. I think that Kenny probably could sew but I don't know. He's like, good at everything.
sweating.
Like I don't think I need to know that you're even good at that. Like that would be infuriating.
Is,
Them have a cat. Can you make Gwen your cat parents? I mean, obviously they're canonically going to be cat parents.
that sounds fun.
Like, just give them a cat that, like, I think that stray cats adopt Azrael all the time, and that he would say that, oh, that's not my cat, like, and then he's like, but he like feeds them habitually.
I'm gonna give them a wampus cat.
A wampus cat? What's a wampus cat?
It's a cryptid cat. It's a cat-like creature from American folklore. I might not use it actually. Never mind, I'm not going to use it. It's Cherokee, and that is not my culture, so I will not be using the wampus cat. But I'll find something. I'll find some like giant cat for them to have.
I just
Oh my god, if they had a werecat.
Werecat?
It's so a werecat. Have you ever heard of a werewolf cat?
Yes.
Okay, I might just make it a werecat, a giant werewolf cat. It's like a cat that has hair, but not a lot.
Oh yeah, just like the ugliest looking cat. They would totally have the ugliest looking cat.
Wait, what is a Sith cat? It's from Irish mythology. Oh no, they're getting a Sith cat, a cat she.
That's to fall down a mythological cat rabbit hole.
Oh, they're getting a cat she for sure. It's like a shadow cat. Nope. Okay.
Stop. Literally, my headcanon is that, like, Azrael, like, literally, like, all of the stray cats in Valaris, like, love him, and that he's, like, I don't have, like, they're not my pets, like, I don't have anything about the cats and blah, 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 like, he feeds them all the time, and then he makes sure they're getting fed, like, Nuala and Cara Dwayne are always feeding them when he's gone, and then...
He's like, I gotta do a quick perimeter check. He's like...
And then Gwen's like, I think so you, like, they're your pets. He's like, no, they're not pets. They don't live with me. They're
I'm
not.
not pets.
And then, but if anything happened to them, I would literally kill everyone in this room myself. Like I love them, but I'm
No,
not
they're not my cats. I just feed them and make sure that they're okay.
literally. And then like, what's the name of their adoptive child?
Octavia.
That she would bring home a cat. And then
Octavia is
as would be like, I'm putting my foot down, no, and then the cat is his like the classic dadisms of like,
that's I was gonna say classic. Classic. I like the prologue is Octavia. The prologue's really short, so y'all get the prologue in chapter 1 the first day. But I love it because she has got him so wrapped around her finger
good.
and he knows it and he just like looks at her at one point and he's like, "Oh my God, how dare you?" And she's like, "This yours is cute. Meanwhile, mine is like huddled over here by a poster board."
My other one is trying to eat and she likes to be pet while she eats, and I'm gonna pick her up and she's gonna make a grumble noise.
I'm gonna describe. Okay, from now on, you're in the same category as me and Alex. When me and Alex hang out, my friend, one of my friends came up with this. She said it's like Emma Stone and whenever Emma Stone and Jennifer Lawrence get together, that's
Yes.
what these lives are like. Because it's like the same person in a different font having a conversation with each other. Hello.
This is Willow.
Hi, Willow. After Willow, the movie?
After Willow Trees, because Willow Trees are my favorite.
Oh,
When I went to
I
get
love Willow.
her name, and then I was like, they gave her her like litter's name was all after, like, she was a foster. They were all named after cars, and so she was Acura. And I was like, I can't name her that, but I was like, I'm gonna figure out her name when I meet her. Maybe
Yeah.
it's a toy and it's not. Thank you.
Newton's name was Watkins when I first met him, and I was like, that can't stay.
Yeah, I was a 2-hour drive from my place, and I was driving with my mom, and we passed so many willow trees, and those were always my favorite trees as a kid. And
They're
then
my favorites.
I was like, oh my God, her name is Willow, and then it just made sense.
It's why it's always in Gwen's sense is always willow trees and water lilies for me, is because those are my two faves. Like, I get she's a river nymph, but also those are my two faves.
Also, the willow trees sing.
Yes, I knew that.
Remember in ACOTAR when
I did not think about that when I gave that to her.
the glamour and then the willow tree is like singing to Feyre, isn't he? Is that a fanfic or is that canon? I feel like that was canon, but I don't remember.
I think it's canon, and I just didn't remember it.
Eyeballs, and it's like, oh yeah, like for a kiss, I'll let you like experience, and he'll take away all the glamours, and then and it like lulls her to sleep.
What the fuck? I don't remember any of that.
Without even realizing.
I did it. Well, I am gonna go to bed, even though High Lord Recent has just joined. I'm very sorry, High Lord. We have to go.
Reese, we were talking about you and how
we were just talking about you, dear.
Always. How your team Gwynreal.
Yeah, thank you for being Team Gwynreal. At least this High Lord Recent account is. This High Lord Recent account always has my back.
Oh, I always am like, Reese, yes! Reese has my back, I'm fine. But also
Recent Asriel.
Reese, yes, the Asriel count. Stop it.
All right. I will talk to you soon then, dear.
Okay, I love this. I love you. Bye.
I love you. Good night.